Hey guys, Hussein and welcome to YouTube channel. So in this video, I'm gonna make you a Visual Story Coder superstar. And this is my guarantee, like if you totally watch this course, this is my guarantee. By the end of this course, you are going to be calling yourself as a Sonic Coder. I'm gonna show you a lot of different kinds of shortcuts, a lot of different kinds of extension which you're going to be using throughout every single day as a developer. So to be honest, this is one of the most difficult video for me to make because I've compiled my years of experience in Visual Story Coder into just this single video. So this is my guarantee, like you're going to be learning a lot of stuff in Visual Story Coder. So now let's get into it. So the first thing which you have to do is that you just have to come to this link, which is https code.visualstudio.com. So it will bring you to this landing page right here, and by default it will automatically detect your operating system. I happen to be using a Windows, so here you can see it automatically detect my operating system right here. If you are using a Mac or Linux or any other operating system, so it will automatically detect your operating system. If you want to download it, just click on this button and it will just start downloading, and then just hit next, and then you're ready to go. And if you want to download it for some other operating system, so you just have to click on this drop down menu and you can download it for Mac, for Windows, and for Linux right here. So as the requirements for this course, you don't need to know any programming language. You just have to know a basics of HTML and CSS, and throughout this course you will see me using a lot of different kinds of programming languages like Golang, Python, and I don't know, like some sort of libraries and frameworks like Vue.js or React. So that's completely okay. You don't have to know the coding, but you just have to keep in mind that what I'm doing, okay? Like no requirements, nothing. You don't need to know nothing except just the basics of HTML and CSS. That's what you have to know. So now that we learned about how to install Visual Story Coder, so the next topic which you have to cover is that how can we open our project in Visual Story Coder. So there are a few ways you can open your project in Visual Story Coder. So first of all, if you want to work with some sort of a project, so we have to create it first of all. So here you can see we have our new folder right here, which I've created just a second ago, or I can just right click on it and then click on this new folder right here. So now I'm gonna give some sort of a name, like I don't know, maybe like VSC for Visual Story Coder. So if you want to open this folder inside this Visual Story Coder, so you can just drag it on top of this Visual Story Coder icon. So I'm gonna just place it right here, and it will now open this folder inside our Visual Story Coder right here. So this is the recent page, how that looks like. I'm gonna cross that one, and this is how it looks like right here. So this is the actual interface of a Visual Story Coder. So this is how it looks like. So first of all, we have a title bar right here. After that, we have our activity bar, then we have our sidebar, and then we have finally our status bar right here. So you just have to remember these names. First of all, we have our title bar, then we have our sidebar, then we have our activity bar. After that, we have our status bar. Okay, so if you want to collapse this sidebar or uncollapse it, so you can just hold Command or Control and then hit B, so it will just collapse it. If you want to uncollapse it, so you can just use that same shortcut like Command or Control B, so it will just open it right here. So that was the first way how you can open your project inside of Visual Story Coder. So now let me just show you another way. So I'm going to create a new file right here, and I'm going to give a name of like something right here. So if I give a name of something, now I will drag this file and I'm going to hold Alt and hit Tab. It will now open this Visual Story Coder right here, and I'm going to place this folder right here. And now here you can see we are now inside this something folder right here. Here you can see the name. So this was the second way, and the third way is to just like right click on some file, and here you can see we have like open with code. If I click on that, it will also open that project in Visual Story Coder. So that was the third way how you can open your project in Visual Story Coder. Okay, so now let me just show you the final way. So I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to give a name of like I don't know. Okay, so now what else do we have to do? I'm going to open my terminal. So now I'm going to open my terminal right here. So if you are a Mac OS user, so you will also have to open your terminal. So what do you have to do? You just have to write cd and then hit space and then write opening quote, and then you know what, you don't need to write your opening quote right here. You just have to drag the file. I'm going to close this one right here, we don't need it anymore, and you just have to drag the folder name and paste it right here. Okay, so here you can see it will also put these quotes from the beginning through the end right here, and you just have to hit enter. So now that you navigate through inside this desktop, and inside this desktop we have the IDK folder. Now we navigate through that folder. So what else do we have to do? We just have to write code and then period, and if you hit enter right here, so it will also open that folder inside Visual Studio Coder. So I'm going to close this one. And that was the third way how you can open your project in Visual Studio Coder. So not a third way, but a fourth way. Yeah, it was a fourth way, I guess. Okay, so I'm going to close this one, and I'm going to remove these folders from here, like IDK and something one. And I'm going to drag this one and drop it right here. So it will now open it inside Visual Studio Coder right here. So that was how you can open your file inside, not file but folder, inside Visual Studio Coder. So now let's just talk about this Explorer, or you can also call it Sidebar if you want to. So this Sidebar is the heart of a Visual Studio Coder, because we are going to be creating and we are going to be deleting and we are going to be creating files and folders, and we are going to be doing a lot of that stuff. And by the way, if you are wondering like how did I zoom in, so if you want to zoom in, I'm going to show you all of that shortcut later on the course, but I'm going to show you this one just right now. So you just have to hold control and hit plus, so it will zoom in. If you hold control or command, and if you hold control or command and hit minus, it will just zoom out. So zoom in, zoom out, control or command plus, control or command minus. Okay, so now this is how it looks like. If you want to create a file inside a Visual Studio Coder and inside this sidebar, so for that you just have to click on this icon right here, and it will now use this input box, and you can give any name you want and any extension you want. Okay, so in my case, what I'll do, I will just create a file, give a name of like index.html, and if I hit enter, and here you can see, let me just make that a bit bigger, and now here you can see we have this index.html symbol right here. If you just create a new file, give a name of like some sort of like style.scss, and if you hit enter, so here you can see it will now uses that same extension icon like sass icon. If you just write like, I don't know, main.css, so here you can see this is the icon of CSS. Okay, so this is how we can create a files. And if you want to create a folder, so that's quite simple and easy. You just have to click on this new folder, and it will allows you to create a new folder. So you just have to put the name of that folder. Like in my case, I'm going to just write like assets, and here you can see it will now just gives us the drop down menu right here. Okay, so that was just a quick introduction about this sidebar and how you can create a files and how you can create a folder. So if something is not working, you can reload that if you want to. So now if you want to expand all of the open file or folder at once, so you can just click on this icon, so it will just expand it at once, and you can also use a shortcut for that. So later on the course, I'm going to be also showing you that. You don't have to worry about that as well. Now let me just write some code right here. So I'm going to write some code. You don't have to worry about this coding for now. And if I just type like random code, like, I don't know, I'm going to write like li times I don't know, 50 would be fine. And now here you can see anytime if I want to write a code, and if I hit Control B, so anytime I want to collapse this sidebar, so here you can see this sidebar is now making me insane. Like I cannot focus on my code right here. My code is jumping like anytime I'm closing or opening this sidebar, so my code is jumping and I cannot focus on that. I'm holding Control and hitting B, so that's why I'm opening and closing this sidebar right here. So we can also push this sidebar to this area, like to the right as well if you want to. So for that we just have to right click on it. I don't know where in the world is that. Let me just right click on it here, and yeah, and here you can see move primary sidebar to the right. So if you click on that, and it will now push it right here. So if I want to collapse it and uncollapse it, and now here you can see I can write my code and I can do all of my stuff right here, and it's not making me crazy, and that's looking better. If you want this same setup, so you can also just work with that. If you don't want to, so you can just right click on this Explorer and then click on this move primary sidebar left, and it will just push it to the left right here. Okay, and this is the default behavior. So now here you can see it will now now show us the area in which we can see our recent open files right here. So it will just, I guess, work with 10 files. It will show us 10 recent file. I'm not sure about that, but it will show us our recent files right here. It will show us the outline of our code, like we have HTML, head, metas, allies, like a lot of allies right here, and this is going to be the timeline, and we are not going to be using any of them. So we are going to be just working with this what do we call it, this sidebar area right here, in which we are going to be creating our files and folders. So we will just work with that. We don't need the other stuff right here. So I'm going to just collapse it for now, and later we are going to be removing that from here. Alright, so that was how you can create a file and how you can like create a folder and how you can move it around. Now let's just install a few extensions, but before I do, I'm going to create a few folders right here, and I'm going to give a name of like images, and the next one will be like something else, like I don't know, components maybe, and I'm going to drag that to the main area. Yeah, don't ask me again. Check on that one and move. Yeah, that's looking better. We can also change these extension icons. So for that, we can just click on this gear icon, and then we have a product icon theme, and then we have file icon theme, then we have a color theme. And now in this case, I'm going to just click on this file icon theme. So by default, it will be set to this SETI or SETI, however you want to pronounce that. And if we go to above, like this minimal, and this is how it will look like in a minimal. So we can also set that to none, and it will not show us any of that symbol right here. You can choose that, but for now I'm going to be installing our first extension in our Visual Studio Coder. So the extension name will be Moxer Icons. So Moxer Icons, and this one will be not the beautiful icon in the word like not the beautiful icon theme in the word. And here you can see we have this Moxer or Maxer, how you want to pronounce that, and I'm going to click on that, and here you can see we have this install button, and I'm going to click on it, and it will just start installing. So I'm going to go to my Explorer one more time, and here you can see this is how it looks like. If I check there to this Moxer or Maxer icon, so this is how everything looks like right now. Okay, if I just create a file to like, let me just make that a bit bigger so you guys can see everything a bit clear, and let me just hide that upper bar. Yeah, let me just make it a little bit more bigger so you guys can see everything a little bit more clear. So we have assets folder, we have images, and let me just create a folder for like I don't know, JSON file or pages would be fine. And here you can see this is how these different kind of files icons looks like right here. So we have different kind of icons for different kind of files. If you just write like app.js, so this is how the JavaScript file icon will look like, and we can just create like I don't know, app.jsx for JavaScript, I mean like for JSX file, and this is how it will look like right here. We can also change that to our SETI or SETI manually by just clicking on it, and this is how it will look like. And that was our first extension which we install in our Visual Studio Coder. So the name is Moxer Icons. So you can uninstall that, or you can just click on it and it will open it in this marketplace.Visual Studio Coder right here, and you can learn more about that if you want to, but I will not recommend you to do that. So it will be just a waste of time. And now let's just install a new extension called, what do we call it, material icons. So I really love material icon, and I'm going to install that for my icons. So I'm going to write material icons. Okay, so yeah, this one, I'm going to click on this one, and I'm going to install it manually. And now I want you to just focus on these icons. So here you can see they are looking awesome. Look at this, they're looking clear and awesome. And if you just click on it, and here you can see we have an assets folder, component, images, pages, and we have different kind of file icons for different kind of extensions right here. And we can just create like, I don't know, partial .pug, and here you can see this is how the pug will look like right here. Okay, so material icon is one of my favorite extension to install. So throughout this course I'm going to be using material icon, and you are totally free to choose whichever other kind of icon that you want to use, but I'm going to be using this material icon. Now let's just remove that, and now we successfully installed these two extension in our Visual Studio Coder right here. So we have like countless Visual Story Coder extension, and we are going to be installing a few of them, but not that much. And I guess that was it about this sidebar right here. So I'm going to delete all of these folders and files from here. Yeah, say bye bye to this one, and don't ask me again, and move to recycle bin. And yeah, I want to delete all of them. Let me just delete all of them, and we have our clear sidebar right here. And that was it about this explorer or sidebar, whatever you want to call it. So we learned about sidebar, like you can move it around if you want to. You can create new file, you can create new folder, you can reload it if something is not working in some case, or refresh it, whatever you want to call it. And if you have, oh my goodness, I forgot to show you this one. Come on, let me just write like app, and let me just create a new folder. I just want to show you like how this expand will look like if I just open this file, and I'm going to create a file like index.html file in it, and I'm going to just duplicate that. Let me just hit Control C, Control V, Control V, Control V right here. It's now in some situation you're going to be working with a huge project, and you will have a tree of different kind of folder and different kind of files. And if you want to collapse all of them at once, so for that you can just click on this one, and like this icon, it will just collapse all of these folders right here. And you can also use a shortcut. So now let me just open all of them, and you can also use a shortcut by holding Control or Command and then the left arrow, so it will also collapse it right here, or you can just click on that if you want to. These stuff are not that much necessary, but I want to show you every single thing which I know about Visual Story Coder. I'm gonna do my best. I cannot show you everything I know, so I will just delete all of these files and say bye bye to them. And yeah, that was it about a basic sidebar. And we also installed a few extensions in our Visual Story Coder. So that's that. And now let's just learn about dragging of files and doing a split coding. So I'm going to create two files. I'm going to give this one like index.html for HTML, and I'm going to also create a file given name of like style.css for style sheet, and I'm going to make that a bit smaller so that you guys can see everything a bit clear. So what I'll do, you don't have to write this coding, but I'm gonna just give you example like doc type HTML, and you don't have to worry about that Emmett which I just used. I'm gonna change the name of that title to be like VSC for Visual Story Coder, and let's just link that to our CSS file as well. Okay, so I can also drag this file to the left, and if I just push it right here, so here you can see I am now able to work with the HTML and also with the CSS at once. So let's suppose if I just type like h1 right here, h1, and if I just write hello inside there, and I can also select that right here inside my CSS, and I can see all of them at once. So I just select my h1. Let me just make that a bit bigger. I select my h1 right here, and I can do all of that stuff which I learned from my HTML and CSS course. So like color will be teal, background will be totally black, and so on and so forth. I know this design will look terrible. So if you save our file, and this is how it looks like right here. So you can also work with the HTML and CSS side by side, or you can also drag this one to the bottom. So let me just drag this one. Let me just cut this one, and let's just open that manually, and I can also drag it to the bottom. Let's just drag it to the bottom. Yeah, and I'm going to leave my mouse right here so I can work with that, but I'm going to make everything a bit smaller for that. If I want to work with for top and bottom, like top will be HTML, and for the bottom we will have our CSS, and we can also place our JavaScript if you want to. So I'm going to create a file given name of like app.js for JavaScript, and I can also push this one to the right here. So in this area, and by the way, I'm going to be also removing these breadcrumbs, these minimaps, so you will also see everything just in a clear file, but it will take a little bit of time. We are not there yet. So we can also work with our HTML file right here. We can also style our CSS right here, and we can also provide our interactivity inside this file right here. So everything is now split up right here. Okay, so this is going to be the HTML file, this is going to be the CSS file, and we can also write our JavaScript like, I don't know, function add number 1 or just a and then comma b, and let's just use our console.log or console.log like return a plus b. Okay, and we can also just call this function like 10 comma 20 store that in some sort of a results and stuff like that. Let's just console log it, and yeah, everything will work. So we can write our HTML, we can write our CSS, and we can also write our JavaScript. And if you have more file than that, so for that you will have to make it a little bit more smaller, and let me just make that a bit more smaller, and we can create our new file. So let me just create a index.scss file for SAS, and I'm gonna just drag it right here, maybe somewhere right here. So now here you can see we have different kind of screens, so we can work with our HTML, we can work with CSS, JavaScript, and also with our SAS file as well. But for that you'll have to make everything a bit smaller, and then you're going to be able to work with that. But my recommendation will be to do not go that much crazy in your coding, but you can do that. Like, the possibilities are endless. And let me just create a new file. Let me just give you another file example. Like, I don't know, if you're working in some sort of JSX component, like, I don't know, these are examples which I'm just making by myself, and I can also drag this one to the right here, and this is how everything will look like. So HTML, we have our CSS, we have our app.js file, we have our style.css file, and we can also create our React component like that, like functional component or class-based component. And yeah, this is how you can work with the multiple split screens if you want to. But the majority of time you will find yourself by either just working on a single window, or maybe I'm not sure, but maybe in this like split screen, like you can write your HTML file, or maybe you have one component right here and another component right here, and you will just make that a bit bigger because you are a programmer and your eyesight will be awful. I know that for a fact. Anyways, so this was just how to drag and drop your file and split screen. And by the way, you can also click on this one, so it will also just split it up for you. So this icon will also split it up for you. And now let's just talk about this activity bar. So in this activity bar we have different kind of stuff. Like, first of all, we have our explorer, then we have our search. Now if I just click on that, we can also search, and we can also replace that search with something else, and we are going to be diving into this searching later in a very great depth. And we can also do our version controlling, like we can also use our git, we can clone the repository, we can work with our own repository, we can push our code and all of that kind of good stuff. We can also do a debugging if you want to, and this is the extension panel. Like, we can install our extension, we have a different kind of popular extension which is recommended for us, and we have a popular ones right here which you can install for your project, but I will not recommend you to do that, not right now. And you can also set up your GitHub account right here, and this is going to be for different kind of settings if you want to. So now let me just show you a few shortcuts to access these panels. So if you want to go to the Explorer, so for that you will have to hold Control or Command and then Q. So here you can see it will now brings us to this Explorer right here. If you want to go to this search one, so if I hover my mouse over to it, it will now show us their shortcut like Control or Command Shift and F. So here you can see it will now open this search bar right here, and I can expand that, and I can also replace our stuff with that. And then if I hover my mouse over to it, so here you can see we have Control Shift G. If I hold Control, hit Shift, and then hit G, so it will also open this source control panel right here. Not source control, yeah, source control, GitHub stuff or Git stuff. And if I hover my mouse over to it, so here you can see we have Control Shift D, and it will now open our debugger panel. And then finally we have an extension, but this is kind of a weird one. Like, we have to hold Control Shift and then we have to hit X, so it will now open this extension right here. And by the way, if you want to change the icon of these activity bars, so we also have an extension for that, which is known as Fluent icons, I guess. Fluent icon, there we go. Not this one, but Fluent icon. And I want you to just focus on this area. So if I just install this icon right here, so I want you to just focus on this area, it now become a little bit bigger, and it's looking a bit cooler than the previous one. And if I just set that to default, so default will look like this. If I set it to Fluent icon, so this is how the Fluent icon looks like, and it's kind of a smaller theme to install in your Visual Studio Coder. So if you want to install it, so you can. If you don't want to, so feel free to do not install it in your Visual Studio Coder. So that's a few display shortcuts. So now let's just talk about a file management shortcuts. So inside of file management shortcuts, we have different kind of shortcuts. Like if I hold Control and hit N, so here you can see it will allows us to create a new file right here. So we can also change the extension of this file to something else by clicking on this plain text, and we can also change it to like there are a lot of them, like batch, binary, C, C sharp, C++, and CoffeeScript, CSS. There are a lot of them. But let's suppose if I want to set that to like HTML, so I'm going to just write HTML, and if I hit enter, so here you can see that extension is changed to like this logo is changed to this HTML right here. And now if I want to work with that, so I can just write like doc type HTML, and I can do all of that stuff. So this Control N will allows us to create a new file, and then we can do a lot of stuff inside there. Alright, so that was the first one. So now I want you to hold Control and hit O. So it will now give us this pop-up box right here, and it will allows us to open our file or directory right here. So we can either go to this file, and then we have our open file right here, and we can also use this shortcut like Control O. So we can also just like open our file from somewhere else inside our machine. So that was our second one. And now if I want to save our file, like let's suppose if I want to make some changes right here, and if I want to write like I don't know, something, let me just write something, and now here you can see our file is not saved. So here you can see we are getting like one file is unsaved, and we can also see this one right here. And now I want you to also focus on this circle right here, and also this circle right here. It means like our file is currently not saved. So if you want to save this file, so the first way is to just click on this file, and here you can see we have this file saved right here. So we can also hit Control S to save our file, or we can also just come to the file and then click on this save. So it will also save it for us. So if I just click on it, it will now save it for us. But this is kind of a long process. Like if you just make something else, like I don't know, H1 of yellow instead of hello, and then we have to click on this file and then come a little bit down, and then we have to click on it. So instead of doing all of that, I can just make changes like I don't know, whatever I want to do with that, and then I can just hit Control or Command S, so it will just save our file. And here you can see that one is gone, that unsaved is gone, that circle is gone, and it will replace it with this X, and also that circle is gone right here. So if you just remove this header from here, and here you can see we have all of that circle and all of that unsaved stuff right here. We can also do autosave, which I'll show you just in a second, but you don't have to worry about that for now. So that was Control or Command N, Control or Command O, Control or Command S. So next shortcut which we are going to be learning is something called save as. So that was for the save one. So now let's just learn about this shortcut, which is Control Shift S, and as the name suggests there, it will allow us to save as our file. Like we will have the copy of this file right here, and if you want to put the copy of this file somewhere else, so for that we can just hold Control or Command and then Shift and then S. So here you can see it will now give us this pop-up box right here. We can create a new copy of that same file somewhere else. Okay, so you can just click on this save. You can also change the file name to something else, and so on and so forth. So now let's just close this one. So now let's just learn about a save all command. So what I'll do, I'll just remove this header from here, and I'm going to just write h1 of hello, and I didn't save this file. Now let me just go to inside this style.css file, and I'm going to just write padding of 5 frames, and I didn't save this file as well. Now I'm going to go to my what do we call it, app.js file, and I'm going to remove all of this coding, and I'm going to replace it with this hello or my own name like Hossein WebDev, and I didn't save this file as well. And now let me just go to this and I'm going to create a component called app, and it will be now set to just a simple component right here, and I didn't save this file either. Okay, so if you want to save all of these files at once, so here you can see we have circle right here, circle right here, and all of them will have circles, which means like these files are not saved yet. And here you can also see that 4, like we didn't save 4 files inside our current repository or project. So if you want to save all of these files at once, so for that we just have to first of all write Control K, and here you can see it will say like Control K was pressed, waiting for the second command. So now let me just use that command one more time. So I'm going to hit Control Command K and then S, and here you can see it will now save all of the file, and it will just remove that 4 from it, and also that circles will be replaced with this X right here, which means like all of these files are currently saved. And if you have like countless other files which you didn't save, so it will just save it for you. Alright, so now let's just learn about how we can close one file at a time without using our mouse. So for that we can just use Control and W, so it will just remove that file. And if you hit Control W one more time, it will remove that one. Control W, and boom, it will remove all of these files. Okay, and now if I just open, like let's suppose if I have a lot of open file right here, and here you can see we have the list of all of these files, and if you want to close all of them at once, so for that we can just use like Control K and then Control W, so it will just remove all of them. Okay, so now let's just learn about how you can open the recently open files. So for that we can just write Control Shift and T. So if you hold Control and then Shift and then T, so it will just reopen that recent file which we have worked with. So let me just hit that one more time, like Control Shift and T, Control Shift and T, and so on and so forth, and it will now open all of these files in which we've worked with. So now if you want to remove all of them at once, or if you want to close all of them at once, so for that I can just use Control K and W, so it will just remove all of that file from this viewport right here. Anyways, so that was how you can open and close the file. And we can also navigate through different kind of files. Let me just open all of these files right here. And now if you want to navigate through, like I don't know, like maybe this app.jsx file, so I want you to just hold Control and hit Q. So here you can see okay, so I just accidentally hit Control W. So I want you to hold Control and hit Tab, and here you can see it will now give us this pop-up box right here where we can choose different kind of files. Like let's suppose if I want to go to this like app.jsx, so I can just click on this one, and here you can see it will now brings us to this app.jsx file right here. If I want to go to this SAS file, so I can hold Control and hit Tab, so then I can just and I still hold Control by the way, and then I can just go to like what do we call it, index.scss, and we can navigate through all of these files one by one by holding Control and then hitting Tab, but we still have to hold or Control or Command key, so we can navigate through all of these files like so. So now in some situation you would need to copy the path of some file. Like in this case, let's suppose if I want to copy the path of this file, so I'm gonna have to right click on it, and then here you can see we have this copy path, and then we can just like place this by holding Control and hitting V, so we'll just replace it right here. So I can just remove that. I can open my Google Chrome right here, and I can paste this link, and if I hit enter, so here you can see it will now give us the result of that file right here. So for that we can also use a shortcut called Control K and P. And now if I hit Control V, so here you can see this is the link or the current path of that file. So I can just remove that, and I can go to this SAS one as well. So I'm gonna have to hold Control and hit K and then P, so it will just copy the path of that current file. So if I hold Control V, so here you can see this is the path of that current file in which I am working on. Okay, so let's just close this one. And we can also open that file in Explorer as well, like inside our current directory if you want to. So for that we have to hold Control, hit K, and then we have to use R. Okay, so here you can see it will now open this file inside the current project in which we are working on right here. Let's suppose if you want to open this app.jsx file, so for that you just have to hold Control, hit K, and then hit R. Okay, so here you can see it will now open that app.jsx file as well. So I'm going to close this one, and this is how you can work with that. In some situation, you would just want to work with single file in separate windows. So for that, we can use a command called Control K and then O. So it will now open this current file inside a separate window right here. If you hit Control B, so here you can see we don't have like some sort of folder, but we still can see our file in a separate window right here. We can work with that if you want to, like I don't know, yellow. Okay, so we can just work with that. We can save the changes, and the changes will be still appear right here inside this man file as well. So if you don't want to confuse yourself, my recommendation will be to like don't think about these commands too much, and let's just practice these commands, so then it will click for you. I'm going to save this file, and by the way, I'm going to also give you the link to my GitHub repository in the description below. So there you can find like the cheat sheet of all of their commands, which I'm showing you right here. So that was a file management short. So we learned crazy shortcut about file management. So let me just remove all of that from here, and now let me just highlight all of them one by one. So we learned about Control+N, then we learned about Control+O, then we learned about Control+S, and after that we just learned about, let me just remove this S. Come on, I'm working on index.html. Let me just change that to txt, like plain text. So we learn about S, and then we learn, you know, I don't have to write that. I don't want to waste your time, and I'm going to change that to index.html file one more time. Save this file as well. And yeah, that was just it about a file management shortcuts. So now let's just learn about basic shortcuts in Visual Studio Code. So there are a lot of basic shortcuts which we can cover, but let me just open my index.html file right here, and let me just write my doc type HTML right here, and we are going to be starting from the first one. So you already know how to copy and paste something. Let me just remove these clutter files from here. So now let's just focus on this file. Let me just make that a bit bigger so you can focus on everything. And yeah, you already know how to copy something in Visual Studio Code. So let's suppose if you have like h1 and you just put like my own name, like Hussein Web Dev, and now if I tell you to copy this line of code, so what will you do? You will either use your mouse to just highlight this text, and then you are going to be either right clicking on it, or if you already know the shortcut, so you are going to be just using Control and then C, so it will just copy it, and then you can use like Control V to paste it. But that is a lot of step to take. Like first of all, you will have to select everything, and then you're going to be using Control C, and then you're going to be using Control V. Instead of doing all of that, you can just use a shortcut which is Control C. You don't have to select that. You just have to activate the line, like the current line you want to copy. So you just have to activate there, like by holding your cursor in that line, and here you can see that slider border around that line right here. So you just have to activate your line by not doing anything, but you just have to put your cursor in there and then hit Control C, so it will just automatically copy that. If you don't believe me, let me just change the text to be like something else, like Hussein the YouTuber. Okay, so if I want to copy this line, so I just have to hit Control C, and now if I want to paste it right here, so for that I can just use Control V, and here you can see it will just paste that same line right here as well. And same will go with the cutting as well. So you already know, so if you already know the cutting shortcut in Visual Studio Code or in computer science in general, so you already know like Control or Command X. So first of all, you would highlight something, and then you can use like Control or Command X, so it will just cut that line, and then you can repaint it or repaste it right here. And there's also a few steps to take, but instead of doing all of that, you can just use Control X, so it will just cut it from here, and then you can paste it anywhere you like. Okay, so you don't have to select anything, you just have to use that command in Visual Studio Code. So this is the power of Visual Studio Code. Let me just change this name to my own name, back like Hussein Web Dev. And now if I want to cut this line from here, and let's suppose if I want to put it inside this or like I don't know, underneath this title. So I just have to select that, like activate that, and then hit Control X. So I'm gonna cut it from here, and let's suppose if I want to paste it right here, so I'm gonna hit enter, and I'm gonna just use Control V, so it will just paste right here. And this is invalid code, so I'm gonna cut it from here. And did you saw that I select this, or that's because for you guys, so I selected, like I am selecting this element and I'm copying it from here, and then I'm going to replace that. But in this case, I'm going to just use a shortcut, which is Control X, and I'm going to paste it right here. And this is how you can work with the copying and pasting and also the cutting. And you already learned about Control S shortcut, which is how to save your file. Okay, so you can also take this file from one place into another place. So what do I mean by that? Let me just write a little bit of HTML. So I'm going to write header. Inside that header, we will have our navigation, then we will have our I don't know, UL, and then LI right here. And inside this LI, I'm going to write hello right here. And now if you save a file, nothing will happen. And now if you want to put this li underneath this header, so how can you go about doing that? So the first way is to just first of all select this line and cut it from here, and then put it right here, like underneath this header area. So this is going to be the first way. And the second and the better way is to just paste it right here. Let me just undo this step. And the second and the better way is to use a shortcut, which is hold Alt, and then you can just use like up arrow, and it will just put it up like so, and you can use down arrow and it will just bring it down. So I've already hold Alt, and then I can just move it to anywhere I want, like move it to the top or move it to the bottom, and I can move it or I can place it anywhere I want. So I want you to just hold Alt and then move it to anywhere you want. So that was just a little bit small shortcut, but very powerful. So I'm going to remove this empty space from there. And yeah, that was Alt shortcut. So you just have to hold Alt and then move it anywhere you like. And now let me just show you how you can take a duplicate of some line by not using Control C and then Control V. So I'm going to just remove that, and I'm going to just write H1 and hello. Or you know what, my name is the best name in planet Earth. Okay, so if I tell you to make a duplicate of this line, so how can you do that? Well, now you already know a shortcut, which is Control C and then Control V. So you can also make a duplicate of that. And if I want to duplicate it like this, so how can you go about doing that? I know that was a magic. That wasn't a magic. That was a shortcut in Visual Story Coder. So you just have to hold Alt and then hit Shift and then down arrow. Okay, so if you hit down arrow, so it will just make it duplicate that much time. I'm hitting down arrow that much time, and I'm already holding my Alt and Shift arrow. So what do you have to do? I'm gonna undo this step. And by the way, if you want to undo a step, so you can just use Control or Command and then Z, so it will just undo that step for you. Alright, so let me just change this name to like Alt and plus Shift. Okay, so Alt plus Shift, and then you can either use the up arrow or the down arrow if you want to. So this is going to be the shortcut which you can use. So I want you to just hold Alt and then Shift and then down arrow, so it will just make a duplicate of that line. And you are not just limited to make a duplicate of just H1, you can make a duplicate of entire things if you want to. So let me just write header, and inside this header we would have like some sort of a navigation, then we have a UL, inside there we will have our LI, and let's just write Apple in it. And now if you want to make a duplicate of all of these code right here, so first of all we have to select that, and then we can just use our shortcut, which is Alt and then Shift and then down arrow. And now here you can see it will just duplicate that line of code right here, and you can reuse it again and again if you want to, like hold Alt, Shift and down arrow, and it will make that much copy for you. Okay, so it's looking kind of like a tree, so I'm going to remove all of these unnecessary code from here, and I'm going to also remove this Alt Shift arrow as well. So that was how you can make a duplicate of something. And now let me just show you how you can get a new line. So I'm going to just write header, and then we would have like H1 of heading 1, and now let me just write H2 of heading 2 right here. So now you are here, like somewhere here, and you want to make a new line right here. So how can you go about doing that? Well, for that you can use a shortcut, which is Control and Enter. And if you hit Control and Enter, so it will just create a new line for you right here. Okay, so let me just remove that. And you can use this shortcut in a lot of different kind of scenarios, but this is just one of them. I want to give you just a simple example of that. And if you want a new line above, so for that you will have to hold Control and then Shift and Enter, and then you can like create a new line up above. So if you want to get a new line underneath, so for that you just have to hold Control. Let me just write it. Control. So Control, there we go. CTR, come on, CTR will be fine. So if you hit Control and then hit Enter, so it will just give us new line underneath. If you want to get a new line up above, so for that you can use Control plus Shift and then Enter plus Enter. There we go. So hit Control Shift Enter, so it will just give us new line up above. Okay, so that was it about how you can get a new lines and stuff. And now let me just talk to you about indent. So how can you do indentation? So now let me just write some ugly code. First of all, like we would have our h1, or not h1, yeah, h1 would be fine. Or let's suppose we have some sort of a section. Inside this section, let me just write like h1, and I'm going to just write like my own name, like Hussein web dev, and then I'm going to just write a paragraph, or you know, I'm going to remove that. And I'm going to write a paragraph of lorem. Oh yeah, lorem would be fine, but not that much. Come on, man. Just a few words would be fine. And yeah, and here you can, you know what, I'm going to remove this lorem ipsum from here. It's looking awful. This is a paragraph, would be fine. And now underneath that, we will have our section or article. And let's just write our paragraph inside there, but I'm going to also remove this indentation right here. Now you can see like this code is supremely awful. If you want to make it better by using indentation, I'm going to copy this line as well, and I'm going to paste it right here so that it looks a little bit more awful. So for that we can use Control and then opening bracket. So this bracket I'm talking about. So for that you can just use like opening bracket or the closing bracket. So let me just do this indentation. So I want you to just hold Control and then closing bracket, so it will just indent it right here. If you want to indent it for the left, so you can use Control and then this bracket which I'm talking about. Is this, yeah, left bracket and right bracket. So if you use Control and then left bracket, so it will just indent it for left. If you hit Control, like hold Control and then hit for the right, so it will just indent it for the right. So I'm going to select both of these paragraphs and I'm going to use Control and then the left arrow, I mean like the right arrow, and this is how it looks like right here. And I'm going to just go a little bit more in depth, so I'm going to use Control or Command and then the left arrow, I mean like the left bracket to be precise. And now my code is still looking awful, but hey, it is improved a little bit. So if I copy this line, paste it right here, it's looking awful. So I can use my shortcut like Control and then the right bracket, so it will just indent it like so. If you want to remove these indentations, so you can just remove it like so. If you want to, come on, let's just remove these spaces, and now they are looking awesome. I'm going to remove these sections and everything from here, and that was it about for the indentation. And now let's just talk about this scrolling without using our mouse. Like here you can see the scroll bar is scrolling, but I'm not using my mouse right here. So if you want to achieve the same results, so for that I want you to just hold Control and then you can just use that down arrow and up arrow, so it will just like scroll up and down just like that. So that was just a quite simple shortcut you can use for your own project. So whenever you are working on your project and you want to scroll to the bottom, so you can just hold Control and then scroll to the bottom or to the top. Alright, so you already know how the comments works in Visual Studio Coder. So you would just write some code and then you can just write like this is a comment. And now if you want to comment this line out, so you can just hold Control and then the slash, so it will just comment it out for you. But in some situation you don't need that behavior, like this behavior. In some situation you want to write a comments from the beginning of the line. So how can you write comment from the beginning of the line? Well, you can place your cursor anywhere inside that line and then you can just use like Shift Alt and then A. Okay, so here you can see it will now allows us to write our comments right here, or if we can just put it right here and we can use Shift Alt and A, and we can also write our comments right here. Okay, so let's just remove this coding from here. So that was just a little bit about the comments. And now let me just talk to you about our text wrapping. So if I write paragraph and if I just use like lorem keyword, and then I can specify the amount of keywords, I mean like the amount of words I need, and if I hit tab, so it will just generate that much of text for me right here. Okay, so it will now generate 100 words for me, or if I just want to write like 1000, and if I hit tab, so it will just generate 1000 words for me. I mean like that's huge. And now here you can see it will now give us that bottom scroll bar right here, and we cannot see everything like all of these texts side by side like from top to bottom. If you want to remove that wrapping, so for that you can use Alt and then Z. Okay, so here you can see it will now stop that wrapping, and it will now show up everything like all of our code in one viewport right here. So if I just zoom back, and now here you can also see that everything inside this minimap as well. And yeah, this is how you can remove mapping. I mean like this is how you can remove wrapping. If you want that wrapping again, so you can just use Alt and then hit A and then hit Z. Okay, so here you can see it will now just put everything at one line right here. Anyway, so these are cool stuff to work with, and now we are totally done with these basic shortcuts as well inside a Visual Studio Coder. I know these shortcuts are like a lot, but you have to practice these shortcuts. If you don't want to practice so well, then why are you even watching this course? Now let's just talk about the heart of Visual Studio Coder. So I'm going to close this file right here. I'm not going to save it or anything. I'm going to go back. Alright, so now let's just talk about the most useful thing in my opinion in Visual Studio Coder is something called command palette. And I've seen countless developers don't even know about a command palette in Visual Studio Coder, and command palette is like the most useful thing in my opinion in overall Visual Studio Coder. Like you can access the file, you can create a file, you can go to the settings, you can like do crazy stuff with command palettes, and I'm going to be showing you every single thing about not every single thing about, but I'm going to be showing you a lot of things about command palette in this video. So first thing first, how can you access command palette? What even is a command palette? So first of all, let's just talk about how you can access it, and then I'm going to be talking about what even is a command palette in Visual Studio Coder. Okay, so if you want to access a command palette in Visual Studio Coder, so for that you just have to hit F11 and boom, here you can see we have our command palette right here, and we can do a lot of stuff with that, like crazy stuff with command palette. But now let's just start with our first thing, like how can we create our file inside our Visual Studio Coder by using command palette. Like let me just create a file, so you can just use like create and new file. So if you just click on that, and we can just give them some sort of a name, like I don't know, apple.pug maybe, and if you hit enter, and okay, so it'll ask us like where do you want to store it. I just messed up. I'm going to use that command one more time, like F11, and now I'm going to just write like new file right here, not create new file but just a new file. And if I hit enter right here, and then I can just give me some sort of a name to it, like I don't know, index.pug maybe, and here you can see it will now just create our new file for us. Okay, so this is how you can create a file by using command palette. Now let's just learn about how you can access the files by using command palette. So I'm going to just hit F11 one more time, and then I'm going to remove this greater than sign from here, and now here you can see we can access all of our files from here by using our command palette. So in some situation we are going to be in Zen mode, which I'm going to be also showing you, and now you want to open your file, or like you're going to be working with a tree of file. Like in some situation you want to work with like pages, and inside that pages folder you will have a file called index.sas, so you can also access that by using command palette. So you just have to hit F11 and then remove that greater than sign, and then you can just specify the path, like I don't know, if you want to access like style.css, and hit enter, and boom, it will now open that style.css file for you. So this command palette is the most useful thing I've ever worked with. So if you want to access it, for that you have to use F11, and boom, you can do a lot of stuff with that. And by the way, if you want to go to the settings, so you can also go to the settings by just writing like settings right here. First of all, you have to write a greater than sign and then settings, and then go to, you can also like choose a UI, like open settings UI, so you can click on that and it will now open this UI for you. Or you can also click on this one, so it will also open a JSON for you. Or you can use command palette and navigate through that JSON setting files as well. So I'm gonna just write like I don't know, settings, and then I'll just not go to this open setting UI, but I'm gonna select this open user settings JSON. So I'm gonna just hit enter right here, and now here you can see it will now open this file as well for us right here. So I'm gonna just say bye to this one, and yeah, that was just a beginning of command palette. So now what else do we have to do? Now let's just learn about something called a breadcrumbs, minimap, autosave, and zen mode. Okay, so what in the world is a breadcrumbs? First of all, here you can see, let me just write some code, then you'll get to know what I'm talking. Or you can also see, and now here you can see we have our HTML code right here. So if I put my cursor right here, and now here you can see we have this unnecessary breadcrumbs right here, like we have a li, ul, navigation, header, body, HTML, and then we have the file name right here. But all of these stuff are unnecessary and they're looking cluttered. Like if you want to navigate through some stuff like body, so you can just click on this body and it will just bring a slide right here, and then you can click on it and it will just put your cursor right here inside a body. And let's suppose if you want to go to like maybe I don't know, through the header or maybe navigation, so you can just click on it and then you can click on this header, and it will waste a lot of your time. It will make you lazy, and first of all, it's looking awful right here. We don't want that. So if you want to remove that, so for that you will have to go to the settings. So if you want to go to the settings, so I want you to just hold control or command and then comma, and now here you can just type like breadcrumbs. Okay, so I want you to just type like breadcrumbs right here. It will say like notebook breadcrumbs, show code cells, and then here you can see we have breadcrumbs enable. So I want you to just disable that, and once you go to your index.html file, and here you can see that breadcrumbs are gone, and now our HTML file is now looking awesome. And if you go to like I don't know, style.css file, that breadcrumbs will be gone from here as well. If this is the first time you remove breadcrumbs from your project, it will look a little bit weird for you, but I promise you will never use a breadcrumbs in your life. It will just make your Visual Studio Code a little bit awful, so it will be a better idea to remove it by just writing it inside our settings and just uncheck it right here from this panel right here. So that was it about for breadcrumbs. So now let's just learn about what in the world is a minimap. So let me just duplicate this coding like a lot of times. So I'm going to just duplicate that, and now here you can see it will now use us the minimap right here, and we can just go to the top or we can just go to the bottom right here. Now you might be saying like, Jose, this is the most useful thing I've ever worked with, but I promise you, like, this is the most worst thing you can ever work with. It will just take up your space right here, and your Visual Studio Code will look like awful right here. So if you want to remove this minimap as well, and I promise, like, let me just promise one more time, I promise if you remove that minimap from your project and also that breadcrumbs from your project, and later if you start working on someone else project and they have like old version of Visual Studio Code which are using a breadcrumbs and minimap, you will feel totally weird about that person, and you will just look at them like, you didn't remove breadcrumbs and minimap from your project. Okay, so if you want to remove this minimap from your what do we call it, Visual Studio Code, so you can also just write like, let's just remove this breadcrumbs, and you can write like mini and map, and here you can see minimap enable, and I want you to just click on this what do we call it, checkbox, and disable that. And if we go to or index.html file, and now it's looking awesome right here. It's looking totally better. We don't need that minimap, we don't need that breadcrumbs, we don't need any of that complexity inside our code editor, so we don't want that. Let's just remove it. Anyway, so that was it about how you can work with the breadcrumbs, minimap, and also let's just learn about autosave. In some situation, autosave can be a little bit dangerous, but if you still want that autosave, so for that you can just go to this file and then come a little bit down, and here you can see we have this autosave. So if I just click on it, and anytime I make changes, like anytime, let's just remove these files, I mean like this coding from here, and if I remove it, and here you can see I don't have to save my file no more. A lot of people will use this feature, but some people like me will not use this feature. It's totally on you if you want to use it, so you totally can, and if you don't want to use it, so you don't have to use it. Again, I'm not going to be using it. If you still want to use it, so you can, but I'm not going to. I'm going to click on this file, and I'm going to uncheck this autosave from here. Anytime I want to work with my file, I want to save my files, so I want to make sure that everything is working and stuff like that. Anyways, so that was it about autosave, and now let's just learn about something called a Zen mode. So in some situation, you want to remove all of this complexity from your project, and you just want to work with your current file in which you're working on. So for that, you can activate the Zen mode. So if you want to activate the Zen mode, so for that you have to hold Control and hit K and then Z. Okay, so here you can see this is now known as a Zen mode. You can make your screen size a bit smaller, you can make it bigger, and if you want to navigate through another file, so you already know the shortcut. If you don't, so hold Control and hit Tab, and here you can navigate through all of these files right here. And now if you want to go back from this Zen mode, so I want you to just hold Escape twice, like 1 and 2, and here you can see you will be out from that Zen mode. If you want to activate it one more time, so you just have to hit Control and K and then Z, and it will just activate it for you. Okay, so this is known as Zen mode. So we learned about a breadcrumbs, we learned about a minimap, we also learned about autosave and Zen mode. And now let's just use a shortcut called collapsing and expanding. So let me just write some coding for that. I'm going to write header, then nav, and then UL, and inside this UL we will have our li, and I'm going to just write like apple. Now if you want to expand all of this coding at once, so for that we have a shortcut. So you just have to put your cursor in here and then hold Control Shift and then left bracket, so it will just hide this UL. And if you just put our cursor right here, and if you hold Control Shift and then left bracket, so it will also collapse this area as well. So if you want to expand this, so you can just click on that, and this shortcut will be a little bit handy in some situation, like if you have a lot of JSX, I mean like a lot of HTML, so you can use this shortcut. If you don't want to, you don't have to. You can also just hover your mouse over to it, and you can expand it from here. I mean like you can collapse it from here, and you can expand it by just clicking on these 3 dots. Okay, so you just have to hover your mouse over to it and just expand, I mean like collapse it and expand it the same time, so you don't have to worry about that shortcut. But if you want to remember it, that's a better idea to remember it. Anyways, so we already learned about expanding and collapsing in Visual Studio Coder. Now let's just learn about something called the terminal. So first thing first, where in the world you are going to be accessing your terminal from? I'm going to close all of these files. If you want to access the terminal, here you can see we have this terminal right here. So if you just click on it, and here you can see we have a run task, run build task, and active, run selected text right here. So we are just interested in this new terminal, so I'm going to just click on that, and here you can see it will now open this terminal for us. So I'm going to just write clear, so it will just clear this terminal for us. Okay, so this one isn't working because we're inside a PowerShell. We have to use a lowercase CLS, so it will just clear it for us right here. So I'm going to make this screen size a bit bigger, and we can also move around our terminal to anywhere we want. So I'm going to just drag this one, and I can move it to the left if I want to, and I can work with the left. I can put it in the bottom if I want to, so I'm going to have to just drag it to the bottom. Okay, so why is that bottom one not working out right now? Okay, so I'm gonna just put it right here, and here you can see we can still work with our terminal right here. We can also even make a separate window for that, so we just have to put it right here. Let me just write some stuff in it like I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why we are getting this empty space. I'm not sure about that. But anyways, it's looking better in a separate window. And by the way, I forgot to show you the shortcut of activating this terminal and stuff. If you want to get a terminal, so you can either click on this one and click on this new terminal, or we have a shortcut which is Control or Command and then Shift and then tilde. Okay, so if I just hold Control, Shift and tilde, okay, so it will just open this terminal for us. So here you can see we have different kinds of terminal open at the same time, but we are not interested in any of them. And here you can also see we have this drop down menu right here. We can change it to PowerShell. We can also change it to Git Bash. If you have already installed a Git Bash in your machine, we can change it to command prompt. We can also change it to JavaScript debugger terminal, and we can also split it to like PowerShell and all of these extension, not extension but terminals. There we go. Okay, so let me just clear that, and you can also hold Control and then hit L, so it will also clear it out for you. Okay, so now let's suppose if I want to make a new file. I'm not giving you a tutorial on terminal, but let's suppose if you want to create a file, so for that you can use like mkdir of like I don't know, maybe Hosan, or you know, pages would be fine. And if you hit enter, and here you can see it will now just create that folder right here. And now if you want to navigate through, like if you want to go inside these pages, so you can just use CD and then pages, and if you hit tab and hit enter, now you are inside these pages. Okay, you can also go back from this folder like using cd dot dot, and if you hit enter, you are now outside from this file. And let me just make that a bit bigger so you guys can see everything a bit clear. Let's just hide that one. Yeah, and we can also check out the coding which is inside this file. So we just have to write cat and then index.html, and if I hit enter, and it will now show us all of the coding which we have inside this index.html file. Anyway, so that was just a basic of terminal. I want to show you like you can customize your terminal, you can move it to anywhere you like, and you can do a lot of stuff with that. And this is not a tutorial on a terminal, but I just kind of want to show you like you can access internal or integrated terminal inside of Visual Studio Coder as well. And now let's just talk about finding and replacing in Visual Studio Coder. So if you want to find something, so for that we can just use a shortcut called Control or Command and then hit F, and here you can see it will now gives us this prompt right here or input box right here where we can search for anything we want. Like let's suppose if you want to search for like li, and here you can see it will now select this li right here. If you want to select for navigation, so we can use nav, and it will now select this navigation right here. Suppose if you want to search for meta, and it will now select all of these metas right here. Okay, and we can also replace it with something else by just clicking on this drop down menu, and now we selected our meta. I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to select my header, and now we selected our header. And now let's suppose if I want to replace it with something else like section, so I can just write section. So let me just write section, and if I hit enter, and here you can see that section, I mean like that header opening tag is now set to section, and I can hit enter one more time, and it will now change that header from header to section. And we can also change the other ones to like let's suppose we select our ul, or not ul, I'm going to select my li, and I'm going to just replace it with anchor tag. And if I hit enter, and it will just replace it with anchor opening tag and anchor closing tag. And if you already know a regular expression or a regex, if you will, so you can also put your regex right here. You can also make it case sensitive or not a case sensitive, or you can do a lot of stuff with that. But in my case, the shortcut is Control or Command and then hit F, so it will just activate this window for you. And you can also open a wild search area, so for that you'll have to use Control or Command and then hit F. Okay, so here you can see it will now open this wild search area for us, and this is underneath this explorer right here. We can also click on it, or we can also use a shortcut for that like Control Shift F, so it will just activate this window for us. But this is a wild window, this is not a prompt like this one. I'm going to close this one. Let's suppose if I save this file, now let's suppose if I want to find something inside this index.html file, so I'm going to just first of all close everything. So let me just search for something like, let's suppose if I want to get a padding, and I'm going to go to my wild search area right here, and I can just expand this one so we can also replace it with something else. But let's suppose if I want to search for a padding like in all of the file, so I can just write padding, and here you can see we have padding inside the index.scss file. So we also have a padding inside that style.css file as well. So if I click on this index.scss file, okay, let me just click on that one. So here you can see it will now highlight this one, or if I just click on this one, so it will now highlight it inside that style.css file right here. Okay, so if I want to change it to something else, like instead of padding, I can also change it to margin if I want to. Yeah, I'm gonna have to click on this one, and it will say like replace two occurrence across two file with a margin. Yep, replace it. So here you can see we are now getting margin right here, and if we just go to this index.sass file, and we are now getting margin right here as well instead of that padding. So this is how you can work with a wild search area. If you already know a regex, so you can just click on that, and you can also provide your regular expression in there. But for me, I'm not going to be working with a regex because it will confuse a lot of you. And yeah, that was it, but that wasn't it. I forgot to show you one more thing. So let me just open my index.html file. I'm going to remove all of this coding from here. I'm going to write h1. Let me just make that a bit bigger so you guys can see everything a bit better. And I'm going to just write heading and then 1, or you know what, heading. Yeah, heading would be fine. So I'm going to duplicate this line of code, and yeah, now I can use Control F. And let's suppose if I want to search for this heading, and by the way, I forgot to mention one more thing. If you select something like, let's suppose if my cursor is right here, and if I hit Control F, so it will just select that element or that something where my cursor was. So here you can see it will now select this h1. If we just select, or if I just put my cursor right here, and if I hit Control F, and here you can see it will now select this heading right here. Okay, so it will just select it like so. First of all, you have to put your cursor and then hit Control or Command and F. It will just find that element for you. Okay, so it will use a stat finder for us. So I'm going to remove all of this coding from here. So that was it about how you can find something, but that was it just for these prompts and stuff. So if you want to get some element by using command palette, as I showed you just a second ago, so let's suppose if you write like header, inside this header we have h1 and then logo, then underneath this h1 we have some sort of a section, and inside this section we have a paragraph right here, and this is a paragraph. Yeah, paragraph, there we go. Now let me just open my command palette by hitting F11, and then let's just remove this gradient symbol, and I'm going to just replace it with this add symbol right here. And now it will give us all of that breadcrumbs right here. We can select our meta, we can select our body, header, h1, section, or whatever we want. So let's suppose if I want to get my head area, so if I just click on it, and here you can see it will now put my cursor inside this head area. Let me just open this command palette one more time, and now let me just use this add symbol one more time, and let's suppose if I want to search for like title maybe, and if I hit enter, so here you can see it will now place my cursor in the title. Let me just do that one more time. So suppose if I want to get my section, and if I hit enter, and here you can see it will now put my cursor inside this section right here. So now in the majority of cases, your compiler will show you the line where the error occurred. Like in, let's suppose you have error in some sort of like maybe 11th line, so you can also go to that 11th line by using your command palette. So how can you go about doing that? Well, you just have to hit F11 and then remove that, and then just write a colon and then specify the line number where you want to go. So in this case, if I want to go to like, I don't know, 7, so I'm going to just put my 7, and if I hit enter, and here you can see it will now put my cursor inside this head area, like inside this 7th one. Now let me just do that one more time. Let's suppose if I want to go to like 20, and yeah, we do have 20, so if I hit enter, so it will now put my cursor right here, and we can search for our error just like so. So if you already know the line, so we can just type the line name, like in this case, suppose if I want to go to like I don't know, 12, or 13, and if I hit enter, and now here you can see we are now getting our cursor inside this 13 line right here. Alright, so that was it about finding and replacing, but now let me just talk to you about another concept called text navigation. So if I ask you to navigate through some text, well, you just say like you can just move your cursor to the left or to the right. So this is how you navigate, or from the top or to the bottom. So this is how you can navigate through your HTML code or whatever code you have. But now I'm going to change your life by showing you a lot of crazy navigation or text navigation shortcuts. So instead of just using your left arrow or the right arrow, so you can use control and then the left arrow, and it will just move your cursor one word at a time. So let's suppose my cursor is right here at that edge. So if I want to go to the end of that paragraph, or to be precise that word, so we can just use control and then left, and here you can see it will now put my cursor one word at the left. So if you want to go to the right, so we have to still hold that control and then hit right, so it will just place our cursor at the right. And let's suppose if you want to go to like the top and we want to put our cursor right here, like we have a logo and we want to use that control left or control right, so it will just allows us to move one word at a time, just like that. But that wasn't that much useful, was it? It will help you. I'm not saying that it will not help you, but that was just a little bit something, you know what I'm saying? And so now here you can see my cursor is right here, but if I want to go to the beginning of this line, so for that we can use the home key right here. So it will now put our cursor at the beginning of the line. It doesn't matter like how many texts I have right here, it will just put my cursor to the beginning of the line. If you want to go to the end of the line, so for that we can use the end button. So if you hit an end button, so it will just put our cursor at the end of the line. If you want to go to the beginning, so for that we can use home. Okay, so same stuff will be helpful if you want to select something. So let's suppose if you want to select this paragraph from the left to the right, so for that I want you to just hold shift and then use the end, so it will just start from the beginning through the end. So it will just select all of that paragraph from the beginning through the end. And let's suppose if your cursor is right here at the end of the line and you want to select this paragraph from the end through the beginning, so I want you to just hold shift and hit home. So here you can see it will just select it from the beginning, like from the end through the beginning. So that was just a few shortcuts like control and control left and right arrow, and also the home and end. And now let me just talk to you about something called a page up and page down shortcut. So if you use like page up, so here you can see it will just put your cursor at the beginning of the viewport, and if you hit end, so it will just put it at the end of the viewport. So if you hit it one more time, and this is how it will look like. And these stuff can be a little bit helpful if you want to quickly navigate through some text, just like that. If you hit that end one more time, so it will just put it at the end of this viewport, and if you hit it like twice, it will just put it at the beginning of this viewport. Anyways, so now let's suppose if you have like countless line of code, so let me just duplicate this line of code like a lot of time, and now here you can see we have a huge file right here. Like we have to use a mouse if you want to go at the top of the file, so it will just take a lot of our time and efforts to use our mouse. So instead of using a mouse, I'm going to show you a shortcut which is just use Control A, so it will just select every single thing inside your file and then just use the up arrow, and here you can see it will just bring your cursor to the top. And if you want to go to the bottom very quickly, so you can use that same shortcut like Control and A, so it will just select everything and then use a down arrow, so it will just bring your cursor to the bottom right here. Okay, so this was just a few shortcuts like a text navigation shortcuts. So I just kind of want to show you that real quickly. So now let's just learn about something called a general shortcuts in Visual Studio Coder. So we have general shortcuts like how you can search for general stuff like toggling stuff, etc. So we can use Control Shift P. So here you can see it will also open that, what do we call it, that command prompt for us. Or we can also use F11, so it will also open that command prompt for us. Okay, so both of them will work, and we can do a lot of stuff, like we can do toggling of the file, and we can do a lot of crazy stuff. So that was Control Shift P. It will allow us to open our command palette. And if we use Control P, and here you can see we can just search for different files, like I don't know, if you want to go to the style or index.scss or app.js, we just have to choose that file, and boom, we are there. So it's Control P. Okay, so it will allow us to go to the different files. And the next shortcut which we are going to be learning is something called Control Shift N. And here you can see it will now open a new project, or it will create a new instance of a Visual Studio Coder right here. Like if we can just open a new folder, or we can drag our files, and we can do a lot of stuff with that. So it will just create a new instance of our Visual Studio Coder. So if you want to get a new instance of that, you can use Control Shift N, and it will just create it for you. Anyways, so that's that. Now let's just learn about a setting. So you already know, like if you want to go to the settings, so you already know you have to hold Control and hit comma, so it will bring you to the setting, and you can do a lot of stuff inside these settings right here. So if you want to get out of the keyboard shortcut in Visual Studio Coder, so for that you can use Control K and then Control S. So here you can see we have a lot of keyboard shortcuts right here. Like if I want to navigate through, so that much keyboard shortcut we have available inside of Visual Studio Coder. So you can change it to something else, but I will not recommend you to do that. And yeah, this is how you can get it. So that was just a general shortcut. And now let's just learn about a multi-cursor selection in Visual Studio Coder. So what do I have to do? Let's suppose if I want to do a multi-cursor selection like this one, and if I want to type something, so how can I go about doing that? So for that we have a shortcut which is just hold Alt and then click it anywhere. So we can just click it anywhere inside our file, and it will allow us to create a multiple cursor selection. Okay, so we can, so I've already hold Alt and I can click anywhere I want, and then I can just use space, and then I can type whatever I want, and that changes will be appear inside the selection which I've made by using the Alt keyword, or the Alt shortcut to be precise. So here you can see this is how we can get a multi-cursor selection. And now if you want to select this whole line at once, so for that you have a shortcut called Control L. So here you can see it will just allow you to select that line, and then you can remove it or you can undo it if you want to. So if you want to select one line at a time, so for that you have to use Control L, and boom, here you can see it will just select it for you. Okay, so then we have a Shift Alt, and then you can drag your mouse to anywhere you like. So if I just drag my mouse right here, and it will just make that much selection for me. So I want you to just hold Shift then Alt and then drag your mouse to anywhere you want, and then you can do like multi-cursor selection, and you can do a lot of stuff with that. Okay, so this is how you can do a multi-cursor selection, but you will never use like that much of a multi-cursor selection. If you want a multi-cursor selection in a lot of places, so you can just use Alt and then click anywhere you want, and it will also allow you to do a multi-cursor selection. And we also have another one, so I'm going to remove this coding from here so that we get a clean body right here. I'm going to just write h1 of heading, and I'm going to duplicate this line a few times. So if you want to get a multi-cursor selection right here, you know, like you think like you will just hold Alt and then you can just write a multi-cursor selection like that. This is the one way, but the better way is to just hold Control Shift Alt and then down arrow, and here you can see we can now do our multiple cursor selection like so, and we can change it to our own name or whatever we want, and we can even remove that just like that. Anyways, so that was just a little bit of multi-cursor selection. Next we are going to be learning about HTML and CSS Emmits. Alright, so now that we learned a lot of shortcuts in Visual Studio Code, so the next thing which you have to learn is something called Emmits in Visual Studio Code. So what in the world are Emmits? First of all, I'm going to remove everything from here. I'm going to make this screen size a bit bigger so you guys can see everything a bit better. So what in the world are Emmits in Visual Studio Code? So Emmits are abbreviated code that follow the same convention as HTML and CSS, and we can use that convention, like we can just write like, I don't know, exclamation mark and then hit tab and it will just generate this stuff for us. So it allows us to write our code very quickly. So in this section we are going to be learning a lot about emmits, and I'm going to show you different kind of emmits in HTML and also in CSS. So let's just start from the first one, which is a boilerplate emmits. So what is a boilerplate emmits? First of all, if you want to get a HTML structure in Visual Studio Code so that you don't have to write like HTML opening tag, then the head opening tag and closing tag, then the I don't know, like a title opening tag and closing tag, then the body, so you don't have to waste your time in there. And by the way, I also forgot to mention, like you can also provide a metadata right here. You can also link it with your CSS file, but it will waste a lot of your time. So what's the best way? Well, we can use something called emmits. So we can get the same result by using our emmit. So the first way is to just write an exclamation mark and hit tab. So how can you get this exclamation mark? I want you to just hold shift and hit 1, so it will now give you that exclamation mark right here. So if you are hitting tab and it's not working, so then you can hold control and hit space and then you can hit enter. So here you can see it will now give you that HTML structure right here, and then you can hit tab and hit tab one more time and you can change the title to like I don't know, my own name like Hussein Web Dev, and then you can hit tab and then you can write your code like so. Okay, so this is the first way we can get our HTML structure. So what's the next way? The next way is to just write DOC for doc type HTML. And now if I hit tab, and here you can see it will now also gives us that same HTML structure right here. Okay, so both of them will work the same. So you can either choose like doc, or you can also just choose like exclamation mark, and both of them will work the same. Alright, so let me just remove these metadata from here because I don't need it right here. Okay, so what else do we have to do? So now let me just show you a shortcut for linking with CSS. So instead of writing like link and then rel style sheet and stuff like that, you can use emmits. So you just have to write like LINK and then hit tab. So here you can see it will now give us that link, and it will also give us that relationship with style sheet, and we have href, and we can just hit control and space and then we can link it with any file we want. Okay, so that was the first. So you just have to write link and hit tab, and here you can see it will just fill it out for you. I mean, like it will just give you the boilerplate for you. And you can also choose like a link and then colon and then CSS. And now if you hit tab, and here you can see it will also fill it up with this style.css file as well. And now here, if I just save my file, so everything will work. But if my file name is changed to like something else like main, and if I hit enter, so then it will not work. It will give you that style.css, but it will not work, like it will not choose this main.css by default. So I want you to notice that one as well. So I'm going to set that to style one more time, and there we go. Okay, so that was it about a link and also the link colon CSS. And now if you want to link it with favicon, like if you want to provide some sort of a favicon for your project, so you can also just write link and then colon and then fav icon. Okay, and now if you hit tab, and here you can see it will now give you all of this stuff which you need for a favicon. So we have a link, then we have a relationship with shortcut icon, and then we have icon, and then we have type which will be now set to image, and X icon. So this is how it looks like, and you can just provide your what do we call it, you can provide your favicon link right here. I don't have any favicon links, so sorry I can't show you that right now. I'm going to remove it from now. Anyways, so that was how you can link it with your CSS. And now let's just learn about styling. So now if you want to provide internal style, so you don't have to write like less than sign and then close it right here, Visual Studio Code will also help you with that, but you can also use emmit for that. You just have to write style and hit tab. Okay, so here you can see it will just auto complete it for you. Then you can choose anything you want, and then you can provide your own styling to it. Okay. So this is how you can also provide internal styling. And now let's just learn about how we can link it with our JavaScript file. So we can just use like script and then colon src for source, and if you hit tab, and here you can see, then we can use control space and then we can choose our JavaScript file right here. Okay, so that was just the basics of Emmits. So I'm going to remove all of that from here, and now let's just learn about the basic Emmits. So we'll just learn about a boilerplate Emmits. So now let's just learn about basic Emmits. So instead of just writing like less than sign and then h1, and then it will just close it up for you, and then also instead of just writing like less than sign and section and all of that, and then you have to close it. So instead of doing all of that, you can just use your image. So just write h1 and hit tab, and now here you can see it will now just fill it out for you. Okay, so you can use h2, h3 and hit tab, h4 and hit tab, h5 and hit tab, h6 and hit tab, and here you can see it will just fill it out for you. You don't have to write like less than sign and then h1 and then close it right here. You don't have to do any of that stuff. Okay, you are now using Emmits, and Emmits will give you a superpower. And you can also just omit by just writing like a whole section. You can also omit that too, just like sec, and not sec but sect. And now if you hit tab, and now here you can see it will just auto complete it for you. And you can also just write hdr and then hit tab, and here you can see it will now give us header. And you can also just write art and hit tab, and it will just give you article. And you can also just write like FOOT and hit tab, and here you can see it will also give you the same results. So you can also just write like nav is a symbol, so you just have to write nav, and nav will work. Then UL hit tab, LI hit tab, anchor tag hit tab, and here you can see you just have to write the first word and hit tab. It will just auto complete it for you. Okay, so that was just the basics of Emmits. So now let's just learn about CSS selector Emmits. So what do I mean by that? So if you've previously worked with CSS, so you already know how ID works, how the classes work, and how you can select that. So if I ask you like, how can you select this section by ID in CSS? Well, you would just say like, you will just go to your style sheet, and you would just provide a pound symbol, and what was that? The section. So you will just write a section, and then you can provide different kind of styles to it. So if you already work with CSS, so this is how you can use that. Like first of all, you just write a pound symbol and then the section name, and then you can specify your colors and styling. Okay, so now if you want to provide ID to something, so you don't have to just write like section, then close it, then hit space, and then provide ID, and then just give them some sort of ID. So it will waste a lot of your time. So instead, you can just write the element name like section or sect, and then write a pound symbol, and then you can just give a name of whatever you want and hit tab. And first of all, it will just auto complete your section or whatever the element name was, and it will also give you that ID, and then it will also fill it out with the name you specified right here. So if you don't want to provide any elements whatsoever, so you can also just use a pound symbol, pound symbol, and then you can just give them any kind of ID name you want, like I don't know, Apple would be fine. And if I hit tab, and here you can see it will by default gives us a div, and it will fill it out with the ID of Apple. Okay, so this is how we can provide IDs to something. And now if I ask you to select this article, how can you select this article in CSS by using a class? So you would say like, first of all, we have to give them some sort of a class to it, like CLS name, and then if you want to select it in CSS, so first of all, you just write a period or dot, whatever you want to call it, and then the class name, you will select that, and then you can specify your styling and whatsoever right here. So the same will go to the HTML. So you don't have to write article and then just write like article and then write a space and then just write a class, and then you can give them whatever the class name is. So instead of doing all of that, like instead of writing article then class and then spacing as well, so instead of doing all of that, you just have to write like ART and then write a period, and then you can give them any kind of class name you want, and then hit tab, and here you can see it will just fill it out as article. It will give you the class, and the class name will be filled out with whatever you provide right here. So you can also just give my own name, and here you can see it will just fill it out for you. And you're not just limited to write article, but you can just write like section and then just give some sort of a class name, and it will just give you that class name. You can write a navigation with the class of like, I don't know, logo. You can also just write ul of list, and it will just fill it out for you. You just have to write first of all the element name, and then the period, and then the class name. Okay, so this is the basic syntax of it. So I'm going to remove all of that from here. So now they will learn about how you can select something by ID and how you can select something by classes, and we already learned about how you can select something by the element name. So you just have to write h1 and boom. Okay, so that was that. Now let's just learn about nesting in Emmits. So what do I mean by nesting? So in some situation you would have a lot of nesting, like you would have a header, and inside this header you would have some sort of a navigation, and inside that navigation you would have a ul, inside that ul you would have a li, inside that li you will have or your anchor tag, and this structure will look like this right here. So instead of writing like header, then navigation, then ul, then li, then anchor tag, instead of writing all of that, so for that you can use Emmits. So how can you write that? Well, so you just have to write header, or you can also shorten it to like hdr if you want to. And let's just see, what was the next one? The next one was nav. So if you want to provide nested element inside that header, so you would just write a greater than sign, and then you can specify another element. So in this case I'm going to just write nav, and now if you want to provide another one, so you can also just hit greater than sign, and then you can provide another one like ul. Let me just give you a quick example of that, and then I'm going to write the header and stuff like that. So first of all, let me just write hdr, and inside this hdr if I want a nav, so I'm going to just write greater than sign and then nav. And if I hit tab, and here you can see it will now give us header opening tag, header closing tag, and nav opening tag, and nav closing tag. So this is how you can work with that. So I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to write an Emmits for all of these codings. So what do I have to do? I'm going to write hdr for header. Inside this header I want navigation, inside that navigation I want my ul, inside that ul I want my li, and inside this li I want my anchor tag. Okay, so now here you can see the preview of that coding right here. So if I just make it a bit smaller, so first of all we have a header, then we have our navigation, then we have our ul, and inside this ul we have our li, and inside this li we just have one anchor tag right here. And now if I hit control space and hit either click on it or hit tab, and here you can see it will now give us the same result like this one. So first of all we have our header, then we have our navigation, then we have our ul, then li, and then anchor tag. Okay, so did you saw how simple that was? You don't have to write complex things, you just have to write hdr and then greater than sign and nested element, then nested element one more time, and so on and so forth. So that was it about nesting. Let me just remove this coding from here, and now let's just learn about a multiply. If you want to repeat some code like a lot of time in HTML, so instead of writing like let me just give you example of h1. So instead of writing like h1 of hello, you already know like if you want to duplicate this, so you can use a few shortcuts, or if you don't want to use the shortcuts, so you can just hit control C and then control V, so it will just paste it right here a lot of times. So it will waste a lot of our time. So instead of doing all of that, you can also use that same shortcut like alt and then shift and down arrow, so it will also duplicate it for you. But instead of doing all of that, you can just use the Emmits. So you just have to write h1 like the element name, and then the opening curly brace, and then the closing curly brace, and inside these curly braces we are going to be writing our text. So anything we write inside there, it will be our text. So I'm going to just write hello, and now if I want this h1, inside this h1 we have a hello. If I want this result to be like, I don't know, to render like 50%, so if I just write 50, and now if I hit tab, so now here you can see we have h1 with the text of hello 50 right here. So now here you can see if I just cut it from here, I'm going to remove everything and I'm going to paste it right here, and now here you can see we have this h1 from 1 through 50 right here. So did you see how powerful that was? I'm going to remove these h1s from here. We can also just write like let me just give you example of ul allies very quickly. So if you want something to repeat like a lot of time. So let's suppose we have like ul. Inside this ul I have li right here, and I want this li to be like 50. So if I just write 50 and hit tab, so here you can see first of all it will give us ul, and inside this ul we would have li 50s right here, like 50 times right here. So I'm going to remove this coding from here, and I'm going to also remove this ul from here as well. Now let me just give you example of binding. So let me just write your code. Like we have first of all navigation. Inside this navigation we have a ul. Inside this ul we have our li, and inside this li we have our anchor tag right here. Now if you want to repeat like this li and this anchor tag like a lot of times, so first of all, if I just write like, let me just give example of that. If I just write like 10 right here, and if I hit tab, and here you can see it will now gives us 10 anchor tags right here. But if you also want to repeat this li with it, so you would just wrap there. First of all, you just have to write opening parentheses and then the closing parentheses. Okay, so this one will be the opening parentheses and this one will be the closing parentheses, and inside these parentheses we put our elements right here. So anything we put inside there, then you can use that expression with it. So if I hit control space and if I hit enter, and now here you can see we are now getting these li's and that anchor tag like 10 times right here. If I just undo it one more time, let's suppose if we also want this ul to be printed like 10 times, so I'm going to cut that from here, I'm going to paste it right here and control space and hit enter, and now here you can see it will give us ul li anchor tag, ul li anchor tag, and so on and so forth. Okay, so I'm going to remove that. So we learned about a boilerplate Emmits. We also learned about a basic Emmits. We also learned about CSS selector Emmits. We also learned about nesting, multiply, binding. So now let's just learn about siblings. So sometime you would want to provide a sibling inside your Emmits. So how can you go about doing that? So let me just write some sort of a code. So if you want to write a sibling, so for that you're going to be using the plus symbol. Okay, so you know what? I'm going to just write h1 plus h2 plus h3 plus h4 plus h5 and also plus h6. And now if I hit tab, and here you can see it will now give us h1, and h1 will have the sibling of h2, h2 will have the sibling of h3, and so on and so forth. Okay, so then you can just provide like, I don't know, heading 1 and tab, heading 2 and tab, and so on and so forth. Okay, the heading T, I'm going to remove that from here. So now let me just write HDR. Like first of all, you have a header and you want to provide a sibling of navigation to it, and then you hit enter. So here you can see it will now give us that header, and the sibling will be navigation right here. Okay, so I'm going to remove that, and now let me just give you a real world example of that. So we have a section. Inside that section we have our navigation. Inside that navigation we have h1 with the class of logo, and we want to provide the text to be like hello. And now if you want to provide a sibling of paragraph to it, so we can just write p and then with the class of info, and then we can specify our text right here. And now if I hit control space and hit enter, and now here you can see it will first of all gives us the section. Inside this section we have our navigation. Inside this navigation we have a h1 with the class of logo with the text of hello, and then we have our paragraph with the class of info and the text of text right here. I mean, like, yeah, the text of text. Yeah, that's what I meant. So you can use crazy stuff like that if you want to. And I even build a project by just using Emmits. I didn't write like h1 and h2 and so on and so forth. I just use Emmits, and I built a whole HTML and CSS project by using that. Anyways, so that was a sibling. Now let me just talk to you about how you can go up a level. So in some cases you want to go up a level in Emmits. So you just have like, let me just give you example, like you are now inside a header. Inside that header we have our navigation. Inside that navigation you would want like ul, and now you want to go up a level, so you can just write a caret symbol right here. This is known as a caret symbol, and then you can just write like, I don't know, h1 with the class of I don't know, logo would be fine. And now if I hit tab, so here you can see we have header. Inside this header we have our navigation. Inside this navigation we have a ul, and then outside from this navigation we have this h1 with the class of logo right here. So this is how you can go up a level. So now let me just give you an example of that very quickly. So first of all, we will just write like hdr or header, and inside that header we want our navigation. Inside that navigation we want ul. Inside that ul we want our li. Inside that li we want our anchor tag, and we want to go up a level, and we want to write h1 with the class of, not class, but with the text of text. And now if I hit control space and enter, and here you can see we have header, navigation, ULLI, anchor tag, and we go up a level, and then here you can see we have our h1 right here. I'm going to remove that very quickly, and that was it about how you can go up a level. Now let me just talk to you about numbering. So we can also work with numbering in Emmits. So what do I mean by numbering Emmits? Let me just give you an example of that. So we have h1 right here, and if I want to render numbered, so I'm going to just write a $sign and hit control space and enter, and here you can see we have 1 right here. So now if I want to repeat it like 10 times, so I'm going to just write this asterisk symbol and then 10, and if I hit tab, and here you can see it will now use us all of these numbers starting from 1 through 10 right here. So these numbers can be very useful. So for that you just have to write this pound symbol, and if you want to write like 00, so you can also do that. So you just have to write h1 and then like $sign, and then let's suppose if you want to repeat it like, I don't know, 5 times maybe, and if you hit tab, and here you can see it will now use a 01, 02, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to remove that very quickly, and now let me just show you another example by using number. You can even use it with element names if you want to. So we have like h1, and then I'm going to use a $sign, and then I'm going to write my text area, and I'm going to also put my $sign in it. And now let's suppose if you want them to be like 6, so I'm going to just write 6 and hit tab, and here you can see we have h1, h2, h3, h4, h5, h6, and also the text from h1 through h6 right here. So did you feel the power of Emmits? And I know I show you a lot of Emmits, and you can also find a link in the description below which will bring you to my GitHub repository, and you can also get all of their cheat sheet from there if you want to. Alright, so let me just talk to you about a very useful feature of command palette, especially in HTML files. So let's suppose we have some sort of a header. Inside that header we have a navigation, and now we have a UL inside there. So now if you want to wrap this navigation in some sort of element, so instead of doing like I don't know, writing a section and then cutting it from there and then pasting it right here and then providing your nesting in it, instead of doing all of that process, you just have to remove this section from here, remove that section, and let me just indent it back, or indent it back, indent. Okay, let me just indent it back, and then I'm going to first of all select this element, and I'm going to just use F1, so it will just open our command palette right here. And what do I have to do? I'm going to just write like wrap with abbreviation. Here you can see wrap with abbreviation, so I'm going to click on that, and then I have to just write some element right here. So now I'm going to just write section, so here you can see it will just wrap it with section right here. And I can also just provide like, I don't know, some sort of a class to it, so the class will be like I don't know, wrapper would be fine. And now if I hit enter, so here you can see it will just do it like that. It will just do it very quickly. So that was just a very handy feature of what do we call it, command palette inside HTML files. So I'm going to remove that, and let's just write h1. Let me just write h1 of hello, and then we have some sort of an span, and yeah, inside this, you know what, let me just write section, and let me just write article inside that section, article, this one. And now inside this article we would have a section, inside this section we would have or aside. And now let's suppose if you want to wrap this aside with something else, so we can just hit F11 and we can just write wrap it with abbreviation, and then we can just write like anything we want. So we can just wrap it with anchor tag with the class of nothing. Okay, and now if I hit enter, so here you can see it will just wrap it with this anchor tag. And these things are very useful in HTML file. So now let me just put all of that together in one image. So let me just write mn for the main, then inside that main I want to write a section, inside that section I want to write article, inside that article I want to write header, inside that header I want my UL, inside that UL I want my li, and inside that li I want anchor tag, and I want them to be I don't know, maybe 3 times. So I want to just repeat it 3 times, and then I want to go outside, so I'm going to just write a caret symbol to go outside from there, and then I'm going to just write a section one more time, and inside this section we we would have our h1, and I'm gonna just write a text of like welcome in it, and then plus and then p for the paragraph, and then I'm gonna just put my lorem in it. Okay, so if I hit control space and enter, and now here you can see we have, first of all, let me just zoom out. First of all, we have our main. Inside that main we have our section, then article, header, ul, li, and then we have our section, and then we have h1 with the text of welcome, and then underneath this h1 we have our paragraph with the class, not a class, but with the text of lorem right here. So this is how you can use Emmits inside your projects, and that's it about Emmits. I don't think I want to show you something else about Emmits, so I guess that was it about Emmits. So now let's just talk about how you can clean up our editor. So first of all, I'm gonna save this file. I'm gonna also save this file. Let me just delete that from here, save this file, save a byte to this one as well. So now we already removed that breadcrumbs and also that minimaps from here. So what else can we remove from our Visual Studio Coder? Alright, so from this point of the video, I'm going to clean up my Visual Studio Coder. You don't have to. If you don't want to, you don't have to, but I'm going to show you like how can you hide all of these complexity from your Visual Studio Coder if you don't want this complexity in your coder. So the first thing I would do, we already hide that breadcrumbs and that minimap, but let me just show you another one. So I want you to just be honest with yourself. Have you ever used this open editor in your life? I guess you don't. So if you didn't use it in your life, so then I want you to just right click on it and then just hide this open editor. Okay, so it will just hide it from there. And then, so now we can also hide this outline, because I personally never use this outline in my life, and I bet you also didn't, so you would never use this outline in your life. So I want you to just right click on it and then click on this hide outline, and then timeline. Like, I don't even know like what in the world is this timeline even mean. Okay, so I'm gonna just right click on it and then hide it from my sidebar right here. So here you can see my sidebar is looking gorgeous, and I also don't need this activity bar. If you want to access like, I don't know, like extension panel, so for that we already learned shortcuts, and I'm going to show you that just in a second. You can leave it right here, but I don't like it. I'm going to hide it. So if I want to hide it, so there are two ways you can hide it and reopen it again if you want to. So this panel is known as this bar is known as activity bar. So now I'm going to right click on it, and here you can see hide activity bar, and now if I click on it, and boom, that's gone. If you want it back, so you can just hit F11. So it will just open this command prompt for you, and then you can just type like toggle TOGGLE and then activity bar visibility. So if I hit enter, and here you can see it will just bring it back. If I want to hide it from that command palette, so I'm going to just use F11 and then toggle activity bar visibility. I'm going to hit enter. It will just open it and close it right here, just like that. Anyway, so that was just quite simple and easy, and it will allows us to focus on our code rather than this activity bar, because when we are writing our code, we just focus on the main canvas. We don't focus on activity bars, so we can just hide it like so. So now if you are wondering like how in the world can I go to like, I don't know, extension, so you just have to hold control and hit Q, and you can go to Explorer, search, source control, run and debug, extension, problem, output, and debug console. So in this case, I'm going to just click on this extension, and here you can see it will now open this extension panel right here, and we just install these three extensions for now. So I want you to just hold control and hit Q, and I want you to just still hold that control, and then you can choose like wherever you want to go. Like let's suppose if you want to go to the search, click on the search. You want to go to a source control, go to a source control. You want to go to the run and debug, go to run and debug. You want to go to the extension, and boom, everything will work just like that. And you can also just re-hide it, and you can just go with that by using your GUI tools. But my recommendation will be to hide it, because these stuff will just I don't know, make your development workflow a bit better, I should say. Okay, so you can hide there. And now let's just talk about this title bar right here. So look at this title bar. We don't need this stuff, so we can also hide it. I'm going to right click on it, And here you can see we have our menu bar. I'm going to click on it. It will just hide that menu bar from here. If you want it back, right click on it and click on this menu bar one more time. It will just reopen it for you. Click on the menu bar. It will just remove it, and click on this layout controls. It will also remove that layout controls from here. Right click on it, and then we have a command center. It will just also hide that command center from here. Okay, so now here you can see our Visual Studio Coder is getting better and better. And now you are thinking like, oh my god, your Visual Studio Coder is looking gorgeous, but there is still one thing you can hide, which is that status bar. So right click on it and click on this hide status bar, and now it's looking gorgeous. I mean, like, look at this Visual Studio Coder. It's kind of like a Zen mode. You can just write like, let me just open my style.css file. You can put it right here, and you can work with that. Like, you have your HTML, you have your CSS, you can also just write your JavaScript if you want to, you can work with the JSX if you want to. And now look at this Visual Studio Coder. Okay, like, it's looking totally gorgeous. If you want this setup, so feel free to make it like this. And if you want that other stuff back, like let's suppose if you want to get that status bar one more time, so you just have to open your command palette by hitting that F11 and then just write like toggle status bar visibility and hit enter. And here you can see it will just open that status bar for you. And you can also open your command palette and hit enter one more time. It will just hide it. Okay, so this is how you can work with the Visual Studio Coder, and my opinion is like, this is looking totally awesome. So now our Visual Studio Coder is looking awesome. So the next thing which you have to do is that we have to install a lot of extension. You would not need all of these extension, but you would just need like, I don't know, like maybe one of them or two of them. So I'm going to just go to my extension right here, and now let's just install a few extension for our projects. So first of all, we are going to be talking about a productivity extension, then we are going to be jumping into the theme extension, and finally we are going to be learning about the most ugliest Visual Studio Coder themes. So let's just talk about a productivity ones. So I'm going to just install these three. First one is live server. Okay, so you already know, like if you're a front-end developer, you already know how the live server work. In case if you don't, so live server launch a development local server with a live reload feature and so on and so forth, which I'm going to show you just in a second. So let's suppose if I go to my index.html file, so instead of just right clicking on it and then copying the path, then going to Google and pasting that link right here, and anytime if I make like some sort of a changes, like I don't know, if I just write h1, let me just make that bigger. I don't know, if you just write some sort of a changes like my own name, Hussein web dev, and now here you can see if I save my file, let me just save my file, nothing is happening right here until I click on this reload button. So then it will just show up the result of anything or all of the code which I wrote inside my body area and stuff like that. Now let me just go to my extension panel one more time, and let's just click on it, and now here you can see our live server is totally installed in our machine. So we can just right click on our index.html file, and here you can see we have an option of open with live server. So if I click on that, it will take a little bit of time because this is the first time I install the live server in my machine. And here you can see we have the result immediately right here. And now if I made some changes, like I don't know, if I just make it a bit bigger, if I made some changes, like we have a header and I'm going to write a navigation inside there, and then we have a UL, then we have a li, then we have an anchor tag. And now if you want to repeat this code like maybe 50 times, and if I hit tab, and I'm going to also what do we call it, I'm going to also write a text for that, and like I don't know, these $2 and hit enter. And now if you save our file, and boom, here you can see everything is working the way we expect to work. And by the way, I forgot to show you the CSS Emmits. I already showed you the HTML Emmits, but I forgot to show you the CSS Emmits. I am very sorry about that. So in CSS we don't have built-in Emmits, so we can write our code a little bit faster, but we don't have a built-in what do we call it, Emmits. So I'm going to remove this coding from here. And let me just write some sort of a selector right here. And then let's suppose if you want to provide a padding, so you just have to write P and hit tab, and here you can see it will just auto complete it for you. And let's suppose if you want to provide some sort of a value inside that padding, so you just write a P and like 10 or 20, and you can also specify the what do we call it, the unit if you want to, and here you can see it will just provide that unit. If you want to get a margin, so you just have to write the first letter of anything you want to write. So I'm gonna just write like margin, like M, and if I hit tab, and here you can see it will just auto complete it for me. And also if I just write like, I don't know, if I want to get a background color or background image rather, so I'm going to just write BG for background and then IMG, and if I hit tab, and here you can see it will now just auto complete it right here. And we can also just write a color, so I'm going to just write BGC, and if I hit tab, it will just auto complete it for me, and it will even give me that totally white color. So if you want to get a text color, so we can just write C and hit tab, and here you can see it will now give us that color, and it will just fill it with this totally black color. Okay, so if you've watched my HTML and CSS course, so you already know these stuff, but if you don't, in case, so here I'm showing you right here. So if you want to just write like I don't know, display of flex, so you just write DF and hit tab, it will give you display of flex. If you want to get a display of grid, so you just write DG and hit tab, it will just write display grid for you. If you want to write display block, so you just write DB, and if you want to get like display inline, so you just write DI for this display inline. So nothing special. So if you want to get something, so you just write the first letter of it and hit tab, and it will just auto complete it for you. Okay, so like color, so C, hit tab, background color, so BGC, hit tab, and boom, this is how the CSS Emmits work. Now let's just install a few more extensions. So I'm going to install a most useful one, and I really love Prettier. So I'm going to write Prettier. I'm assuming that you've already installed this Prettier extension in your machine, but if you didn't, so well, let me just change your life. I didn't change your life, but this Prettier will. This Prettier extension is very heavy, so it will take a lot of time to install in our Visual Studio Coder. So I'm gonna just fast forward this video. Okay, so it installed right here. Yeah, so now we totally installed a Prettier inside our Visual Studio Coder. So what do we have to do for now? I'm gonna go to the settings first of all. So I want you to do the same because it will change your life. I want you to just hold Control and hit comma. It will bring you to this settings right here, and then I want you to just write format on save. So format on save, here you can see, just write a format, and then you will see this option which is format on save. So I want you to just check that, and now you check that. So that's the first thing, like you have to check this format on save. And now the next thing which you have to do is that you have to also write a default format, and if you just write default format, and here you can see it will be now set to by default nothing. Then I want you to just click on that, and then just find that Prettier code formatter. So if you just click on that, and watch what will happen right here. So what I'll do, I will just write a header. Inside that header I will have my navigation, and I'm going to also just write hit enter. Let me just hit enter and H1, and I'm going to write blah. And inside that I'm going to write a span of blah blah blah, just for a lot of text. And now if I hit Control and hit S, and here you can see it will just format my text right here. Okay, so let me just open that folder, or that file rather, in a live server right here. And here you can see we are now getting this blah 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 right here. But anytime I make changes to my file, and anytime I save my file, like let me just write H1, and inside that H1 I'm going to write hello, and let me just hit enter right here. If I hold Control and hit S, so here you can see it will just format my code right here. And I can also work with JavaScript if I want to. I can just write a function, or I can just write like I don't know, yeah, function would be fine. And I'm gonna just give a name of like add A and B and return A plus B. And I can just provide a lot of indentation, and I'm gonna also hit enter right here, and let me just write some ugly code conventions. So then I'm gonna write const result, and it will be now set to like add and 10 20, and then I'm going to just log that to the console. And now if I hit Control and hit S, and here you can see it will just format my code like that. And now you become a super developer, superhuman developer. Okay, so these stuff are very useful and very awesome. So now I'm gonna go back to my extension panel one more time, and that was it about a Prettier. And now let's just install a auto close tag. I use this one just a little bit, not that often, and here you can see 8.6 million people install that. And yeah, that's looking better. Installing this one, I really like this one. 11.4 million install this one. So I'm going to install this one, which is kind of an old school logo one. So I'm going to install it, and now it's installed. I'm going to go to my index.html file. Let me just zoom in, and I'm going to remove this h1 from here. So let's suppose we have some sort of a div right here, and then we have some content inside their div. And now later, if I want to change this one to something else, so I don't have to do it like 2 times, so I'm going to just write h1, and here you can see it will just auto close it right here. If you have a lot of content, like we have a cards, we have inside these cards we have a card, inside that card we have our h1, and I'm going to give a class of title, and we will have some title, and then not inside, but also you would have a paragraph with a class of info, and I'm going to just write like info maybe. And if I hit enter, and now let me just duplicate that maybe like 3 times right here. And now here you can see our code is looking cluttered. If you want to change this one to some sort of a section, so I don't have to write my code 2 times, I'm going to remove this div from here. So I want you to notice, if I remove it from here, it will remove it from the bottom right here as well. So I'm going to just write like, I don't know, section. I'm going to change it to section, and it will change it right here. I can also change this one to like I don't know, a side maybe, and it will also change it right here, and we can change it anywhere we want. So let's suppose we have some sort of I don't know, another section maybe, and it will also change it to another section. And now here you can see, okay, let me just write CCTIO, and there we go. And yeah, it's looking better, and this is how you can use this auto tag extension. So now let me just go back to my extension one more time. So that was it about auto close, and now we are done with this productivity extension, and there are countless of them. Like we have a GitHub Couplet or Couplet, however you want to pronounce that name, but we have a lot of a cool extension which I'm not going to be installing throughout this video because this video will be very long. So now let's just talk about the themes you can provide for your Visual Studio coders. So the first thing I'm going to show is like not that much cool, and then this list will go on, and it will become cooler, and then finally we will reach to the point where we are going to be installing a Monokai Pro, and I promise you will love Monokai Pro, and you have to pay for it. You don't have to, but if you want to, you can pay for it. Anyway, so I'm going to just write default dark plus. Okay, so this one is not that much cool theme, but it is like some sort of a theme which you can install in your coder. So I'm going to just install it, and yeah, it will just take a little bit of time because it's a theme and you have to wait for it. And 150, I thought a lot of people installed that. Yeah, it's kind of like the same one, but we have a little bit other colors, like we have a deep dark, we have a deep dark cool, then we have a deep dark vibrant. So I'm going to just choose like deep dark cool one, and this is how our text will look like, just a little bit of background colors right here. So that was the first theme in our list. I know it's ugly, I totally understand. And now let me just install another one, which will be City Light, LIGHT, and then theme. And this one is also not that much gorgeous theme which you can think of it. So City LIGHT theme. Okay, we didn't have that. LIGHT City Light. Yeah, there we go. So we have City Light theme, and it's also not that much cool color, but for some people they will like it. But in my case, I'm not that huge fan of this theme, so I'm gonna just select it, yeah, click on it, and this is how your code will look like. And you can also open your app.js file. This is how your JavaScript file will look like. You can open like, I don't know, Sass file. Where is our Sass? Index.sass. There we go. And yeah, this is how your Sass files will look like your Sass code will look like. If you like it, so feel free to install it in your Visual Studio Coder. If you don't, I also don't like it. I'm not saying like I hate it. It's an awesome theme, but I'm not that much of a fan of it. So I'm gonna just install another one, which is a dark vision. Okay, so let me just install this theme. Oh my god, yeah, this one, dark vision. So a professional dark theme for clean and clear visual coding. So I'm going to install it, and yeah, it will take a little bit of time, but I guess this one will be a little bit better than the other one which I show you in my list. So now here you can see this theme is installed, so I'm going to just select it, and this is how your HTML code will look like. This is how your JavaScript code will look like, and this is how your Sass code will look like, and this is how your style sheet will look like. So if I just write like some sort of a selector, and then padding will be something, and margin will be also not max width, but yeah, margin will be also something like 20 pixel, and box sizing will be border box. So this is how your CSS code will looks like. If you like it, so feel free to use it. And let me just also show you the comments. So this is how the comment will look like here, and this is how the comments will look like in there. All right, so that was it about a dark vision. Now I would say like this is awesome theme, but I'm not going to be using this one because I really love other theme which I'm going to show you at the end of this list. So now let's just install another one, which is Prettier or Flatty, however you want to pronounce this name, and 820 people install this theme, but in my case that's also a gorgeous theme to install in your machine as well. Okay, so I'm gonna also include it in my list. Took a lot of time to install this theme, but finally we have a Prettier, and I just learned that this theme is inspired by another theme of JetBrains product, which is a fleet. So they give a name of like Flatty or however you want to pronounce it. So I'm gonna just hit enter, and yeah, this is how this theme looks like. So we have our HTML coding like I'm gonna write h1 of hello, and we can also write our comment, and comment will look like this. We have our JavaScript code right here, and JavaScript will look like this, and our comment will look like these. And then our Sass code will look like this, and or what do we call it, our CSS code will look like this, and also our CSS comment will look like this. If you want to write something else, so like something and I don't know, padding inline start will be like 20 pixel, and margin inline start inline end will be like 20 pixel one more time, and this is how your code will look like. Great theme. It took a lot of time to install in my machine. I don't know why. I guess that's because of my internet connection. I'm not sure about that, but yeah, great theme. You can use it if you want. And now the fifth theme I want to show you is Andromeda or Andromeda. Sorry, I can't pronounce these themes names, but they are awesome themes in my list. So yeah, this theme which I'm talking about, so I'm gonna just click on this one, and I guess this will also take a lot of time. So dark theme with a taste of the universe, yeah. And this is how it will look like. Okay, so it installed very quickly. So we have a few version of it. So yeah, I'm gonna just start from the first one. So I'm gonna just choose this one, and yeah, this one is looking 10 times better than the previous one which I show you, and this is how the comments will look like. And come on man, I really love this theme. Come on, this is looking gorgeous. So if you have some other code like I don't know, selector, and we can just write a padding and 0, margin and 0, and box sizing of border box, display of block, grid, and we can do all of sort of stuff. And yeah, this is looking supremely clean. Oh my god. So this one is, I mean, like 1,000 times better than the previous one which I just show you. And we have like a few other version of it. So we have italic border, we have italic, and then we have this colorizer. Let me just choose this one, and yeah, this one is not looking that much gorgeous. Worse. So I'm gonna just choose this first one, and yeah, this is looking better. If you want to install it, so feel free to install it in your machine, and I'm gonna just rate this one like maybe 9 in my list. All right, so now let me just install another one which is came from a Framer team. So I'm gonna just write Framer Abyss. Okay, so this one I'm talking about, and 16k people install this theme. So Abyss theme, not this one, Framer, come on, not this one, Framer, F-R-A-M-E-R, there we go, Framer, and Framer syntax, not syntax, but Framer, A-B-Y-S-S. So yeah, local, where in the world is that one, the theme I'm talking about? You know, I'm going to install this one, the local one, I guess, is the theme. A color theme combining with a hue of a spacing and the D blah blah blah. So I'm gonna install this one, and let's just see if there's that theme which I'm talking about. I kind of forgot this theme because I have Awesome Theme in mind and I'm using that again and again, so that's why I don't have to install other theme anyways. So let's just wait for it to install, and I'm gonna fast forward this video just a bit. Alright, so this theme is now successfully installed in our machine. I'm gonna choose them, and now let's just see. And yeah, this is how it looks like. It's awesome, isn't it? So if you just write some sort of an Emmett, like, I don't know, I'm gonna write a section and article, and then we have some sort of other section and h1 with the text of text. And yeah, this is looking better. Let's just try it in JavaScript. So yeah, we already have this code, and this is how the comments will look like. And if you just make some sort of a mistake like const, yeah, also this is looking better in JavaScript. And we can also check the CSS, the SAS. So selector and awesome padding, it'll be just 20 pixel or whatever. Yeah, it's looking awesome in all of these technologies. You can also check it for, what do we call it, JSX stuff, for React and stuff, if you make that as a Zen mode. And yeah, this is also looking better, isn't it? Okay, so yeah, if you like it, so you can install it in your machine. And this is the color, and this is the theme name, which is a framer VSC and local. And yeah, let's just remove that, and now let's get into another one, which is I. So the I is also a theme for a Visual Story Coder. So I'm gonna also install this one, which is from Muhammad sorry, I can't pronounce your last name, but so yeah, I'm installing it right here. It will take a little bit of time because this is a theme for a Visual Story Coder, and I guess this one will be not that much of an impressive theme, but hey, we will just check it out, like how it will looks and feel. Yeah, now the theme is installed. I'm gonna choose, and this is how my HTML will look like. It's kind of a little bit more red than I expected, and it's a little bit lighter in JavaScript. If you want to work with it, we can also just write arrow functions like so. Not a fan of it like that much, but if you want to install it, so you can. Anyways, so this is how it will look like in JavaScript, this is how it will look like in HTML, this is how it will look like in SAS, and this is how it will look like in CSS. And now let me just also open, what do we call it, that app.jsx, and this is how the JavaScript syntax, JSX will look like. Yeah, you can install it if you want to, but I'm not that much a fan of this theme. Alright, so the next theme in our list is something called Tailwind color theme. If you've already worked with a Tailwind CSS, so you already know, like, Tailwind CSS is awesome, and I've got an entire course on that, which covers, I guess, like, I don't know, 5 projects or something like that. So you can also check out my course, please. Just kidding. So you can check out my course, and now let me just install the Tailwind color COLOUR themes, not COLOR. And here you can see we have this Tailwind colored theme, and now I'm gonna just hit install, and it will install it in my machine just in a second. Yeah, it installed their Tailwind moon, and we have a moon gray, blue, and then Tailwind eyes. So I'm gonna just start from this one, and oh my god, oh, my eyes is hurting and I can't even see my code. So that white version is failed, so I'm gonna just write theme color preference. So not this one, come on. So where in the word is our Tailwind? So Tailwind, yeah. So we have this moon, and this is how it will look like in SAS, and this is how it will look like in JavaScript, and this is how it will look like in HTML. So in HTML it's pass, in JavaScript totally okay, in CSS it's looking awesome, and in JavaScript in CSS, in SAS it's looking awesome, and in CSS it's also looking better. You can install it if you want to, and this is how the comment will look like in Tailwind CSS. So you can install it if you want to, but hey, yeah, you can install it. It's awesome. It's awesome. Shout out to this person. It's awesome if you want to install it. So I don't want to say something bad about that, because this is a Tailwind, and people will sue me if I say something bad about Tailwind CSS. Alright, so the next theme in my list is something called a Cyberpunk. If you have already played Cyberpunk, so you already know how much awesome this theme will. So I'm gonna just hit enter, I'm gonna choose it. And yeah, this is how my HTML code will look like. If I just select something, so I can see everything a bit clear. If I just go to my JavaScript file, in JavaScript they didn't put like that much work, but hey, it's Cyberpunk, so you will love it if you install it in your own machine. And this is how it will look like in CSS. Cyberpunk is awesome theme to install in your machine, but we have a pro hacker, and who don't want to be a hacker? So we have a pro hacker. Let's just come on, open a pro hacker theme. Yeah, god damn. Okay, so we have this pro hacker theme right here. So I'm going to click that, and 11,000 people, like more than 11,000 people install this theme. And now I'm going to choose that, and now I'm going to go right here, and now you're totally looking like a hacker. So if you're I don't know, somewhere else, and you bring your laptop to somewhere else, and you've already installed this theme, and you're writing just a simple HTML, and you're wearing a hoodie, so trust me, people will think that you are a hacker. And this is how my JavaScript code will look like. For fun, this theme is awesome, but for a professional work, it will hurt your eyes, and this is not the best theme to use in my opinion. If you like it, so feel free to install it and play around with it, but in my list and in my case, this is not the most awesome theme to work with, so I'm not going to be uninstalling it. I'm going to install another theme called lips, so lapis or lapis, so however you want to pronounce this name, and I'm going to install this theme. Not that much people install this theme, but this is awesome theme to install or to work with because it's just a lighter theme, you know what I'm saying? So you will see that just in a second. So I'm going to just fast forward this video to install this theme. Alright, so this theme is now successfully installed. It took a lot of time, but hey, it was worth a while. And now here you can see we have a little bit of white colors and also the dark colors. And now here you can see we have a lot of color version of this lips or whatever you want to call it. So here you can see, let's just check out all of them one by one. So very professional theme, very professional theme. And this is how my HTML code will look like if I just remove it and if I just start working with something else. So I'm going to just write like something or paragraph of lorem, and this is how my lorem ipsum will look like, and this is how my JavaScript code will look like. Very awesome theme to work with. So come on, man, this is the most awesome theme you can work with. And this is how your index.cs file will look like, and this is how your JSX will look like if you are working in any kind of technology. So this theme is the best theme for you guys to work with. So let's just see another flavor of it. So I'm gonna just write Lisp, oh come on, LIS. Okay, so I'm gonna write a greater than sign and then color. And now let's just choose another version of it. So here you can see we have darker version, and we also have a little bit slighter darker version, and then finally we have, what do we call it, totally white version of it. So I guess it's at the bottom. Was it at the bottom? I just lost it. Anyway, so we have a lighter version of it, and we also have a darker version of this Lisp theme. So I'm gonna just choose this one, and yeah, look at this theme, like the most professional theme you can work with nowadays. So in my list, I really like this Lisp, and now there are two other professional themes which I want to show you. So the first one will be dark space. So this one is also a professional theme to work with. So we have this one like dark space. I'm going to install it. It will take a little bit of time because it's an awesome theme to work with. So I'm going to just zoom back, and yeah, it will just take a little bit of time, and I'm going to fast forward the video, and you can also watch these images while it's installing. Alright, so now the theme is installed. So I have two tests of it. So we have a dark space black, and we have just a dark space. So I'm going to choose this one, and trust me, this theme is also very professional. So if I just write something else like section, and yeah, let me just get into it, and let's just write h1 of hello world, and let me just write paragraph of my own name like Hussein web dev. So this is how my HTML code will look like, and this is how my JavaScript code will look like. I know in JavaScript they didn't did like that much well, but hey, it's a JavaScript. I'm gonna give a 9th to it, so this one will be 9th. The final theme I want to show is something called the Mono Kai Pro, and this is original Pro. Like, it will take a little bit of time to install. Okay, so I already have installed it, so that's why it didn't took that much time. But this is the awesome theme I have ever worked with. Like, I really fall in love with this Mono Kai Pro theme. Oh my god, this is the most professional theme I have ever worked with. So like, I can't even say something about this theme. Like, this is like without a doubt the best theme in my opinion. Like, there is no theme out there which can beat this theme. Like, awesome, 100 by 100. I'm gonna give him 100, not 10 but 100. This is the most awesome theme you can work with. So there are a few flavors you can choose. So we have filter, octagon, and so on and so forth. Like, all of them are totally professionally choose colors you can work with. So in my case, this default color is fine. I don't want to say nothing more about this theme. Like, you have to install that. If you are a professional user, like, you have to install that, and you can also pay to them if you want to. So I guess it's always free, but if you want to pay to them, so you also can pay for them if you want to. And if you are just a student and you are learning about these Visual Studio Coder, so you don't have to pay them. Anyway, so you can learn about that license and that kind of stuff, but in my case, this is the best theme you can ever work with. So yeah, that was just a list of a best theme. Now let me just show you the worst theme you can ever work with. So the ugliest, the most awful theme in Visual Studio Coder. So I guess it's 5 of them or maybe 6 of them. So let me just start from the first one, which is like 4 a.m. and then session. And yeah, we have this one right here. Let me just change this one to like this color. It's not that much bad, to be honest. Let me just open my index.html file, not pug, but index.html file right here. It's not that much of a bad theme, but this list will go awful and awful. You will see that just in a second. So you can work with this. This is how your HTML file will look like. This is how your CSS file will look like. This is how also CSS file will look like, and this is how your JavaScript file will look like. It's not that much bad theme, but we have a few of them which you will see just in a second. So this one will be the first ugly theme in my list. And now the next one is Zeri. It's not that much a cool theme. Like, it's kind of a greely, I'm not saying greely, but hey, it's not my thing. So I'm gonna fast forward the video so that it will install, and then I'm gonna show you all of that. Alright, so this theme is now installed. So we have this theme, so I'm gonna just hit enter, and now here you can see, like, this is awful theme. It will hurt your eyes. So this text will be in totally white, but your code will be kind of a, not kind of, but it will be a pink and purple colored. So this is how your HTML code will look like. This is how your CSS code will look like. And this is how your JavaScript code will look like inside there. And now the next one we have is a Slack theme. A lot of people love this theme. Okay, not this one, but the Slack theme, this one. So, oh my god, almost 300k people install this theme, but it's not that much an awesome theme. You will see that just in a second, but I guess a lot of people love Slack, so that's why they install it in their coder, so that their coder will look the same like Slack community. And we also have a theme for Slack, so you can send a message through your Visual Studio Coder. So this is going to be the lighter version, so I'm going to just choose this one. And yeah, this is how your Slack theme looks like right here. So this is going to be the lighter version if you are a lighter version person. So then we have a few other versions. So we have a hot one, light one, and yeah, let's just see. Oh my goodness, let's just choose these colors. And yeah, this is going to be kind of a greenish color, and it's looking totally like a Slack. So I'm going to open my sidebar, and yeah, if you're a Slack community user, so this theme is totally for you. If you want to install it in your machine, so you can. If you don't want to install it, so you're totally free to not install it, because I don't love it, so I'm assuming you also don't love it. But if you want to install it, and you can also check out their different kind of flavors, like blue or teal one, and kind of a dark blue, and then we have a white, and a lot of these colors right here for Slack community users. So anyway, so that was a Slack theme, not that much a bad theme, but now I'm gonna blow your mind by installing a Win95 theme. And I'm not sure, like, why would someone install this theme, and almost 3,000 people installed this theme in the Visual Studio Coder. It's crazy. You will see that just in a second. So you will see your icons, you will see the colors and all of that kind of ugly stuff. So I'm gonna just fast forward this video to install this theme, and I want to catch you up in a second. Alright, so the theme is now successfully installed, so I'm gonna choose it right here. And yeah, this is how everything looks like. If you really like Windows 97, so yeah, this is how you can write your code. It's kind of like the old school turbo terminal. If you have ever worked with the C++ programming before, it's not the same like that, but it's supremely awful. Like, nobody will love to work with this Windows 97 theme, I promise. If you're kind of an old school person, I guess you will like it, but nowadays we have professional themes like Monokai Pros, so yeah, come on, man, who would use this theme? Like, what's even the point of making this theme in the first place? So we have this Win97, and then we have this suggested one, which is an old school theme. So I'm gonna just choose this one. And yeah, it's kind of like a Mario game theme, or turbo game, or turbo C++ to be precise. So old school theme for the old school users. And yeah, it will look like this, like totally blue and ugly. You will see that just in a second, but let me just install this theme and then I'll catch you up in a second. And congratulations, ladies and gentlemen, the theme is totally installed, and now let's just check him out. So, and yeah, we are now inside a turbo. I really like this theme. Like, we have a padding of 0, we can do all of that stuff. So like display of flags, justify content will be now set to center. And now let me just open this sidebar as well. So oh my god, when I hover my mouse over through this file, we are now getting these dotted lines right here. And save this file, and this is how my JavaScript code will look like. Let me just create something else like class of ape, and then we have a constructor inside there, and let me just write first name and last name, and this dot first name. And I thought I was working on a Java back then. This dot last name, and then this dot yeah, no, why the hell would I write last name? So this dot first name, and not, yeah, that would be fine. So this dot last name will be now set to this dot last name as well. So I'm going to remove this coding right here, but I just want to show you like how all of that stuff will look like inside this theme right here. It's cool theme to work with, I promise. It's not that much bad. Let's just choose the dark version of it. So this is going to be the dark one, the olive, the gray, purple, maroon. And yeah, this is going to be the maroon version of this, what do we call it, this theme. And also the fonts are changed to something bold font. And yeah, let's just remove that from here, and let's just write something else. If you like this theme, so feel free to install it in your machine. And my suggestion will be to not. And finally, I'm going to blow your mind off by installing Hot Dogs 10. And I can totally guarantee that you will just hate this theme, but you will just hate this theme for no reason, but you will hate this theme. All right, let me just install it. I'm going to choose this one. And yeah, I mean, like, who would not want to work with this theme? Like, it's supremely professional. Like, let's just write display of flags, justify content of center, and my eyes are already hurting. I cannot see my code. I mean, like, look at that. And we can, I guess, choose another colors. Okay, so we don't have any colors. And yeah, this is our Hot Dogs 10, and it's, come on, man. I mean, like, what's even the point of making this? I guess some developer want to have fun, so that's why they invented this theme. Anyways, so yeah, that was the most ugliest theme in my list. And I'm gonna just head back over through my extension, and I'm going to choose my lovely theme, which is a Monokai Pro. I'm gonna choose that one, and yeah, kind of relief. So now we are totally done with the extension. We are not totally done with the extension. Like, there are countless extensions you can install in your machine, but in my case, that's enough for me to show you. And now let me just talk to you about this cursor. Like whenever I hover my mouse over to something, and now let me just talk to you about this cursor. So by default my cursor is blinking like this, but I don't like that. If I want to change this cursor from this blinking to smooth cursor, so I'm gonna have to go to my settings. So I'm gonna hold Control and then comma, so it will bring us to my settings, and I'm gonna just search for cursor. Okay, so I'm gonna just search for cursor. By default it will be set to blink, and I'm gonna just choose the solid. Okay, not a solid but expand, so I'm gonna just choose expand. And now I want you to notice my cursor, it's looking kind of like animation. And now if I move my cursor to anywhere else, and now here you can see it will be blink like this. So you can even change the color of this cursor if you want to, but for now that's looking better. So the final thing I want to talk to you about in this course is how you can work with the fonts. So how can you change the font? So I want you to go to the settings. So I want you to hold Control and comma and then just write font. Okay, so here you can see we have a font size, we have a font family, and all of that good stuff. So here you can see by default our font is this console, and then I cannot pronounce these names, but it will be now set to monospace. But we can download and install different kind of fonts in our machine. So now let me just go to Google, and I'm going to just type like fonts.google.com. It will bring us to Google Fonts, and I'm going to show you, but I'm not going to be installing any fonts in my machine because it will make my machine a little bit weird. So you can install different kind of fonts inside this Google Fonts. So we have different kind of bold, italic, professional, unprofessional fonts which you can choose from. I'm going to just search for Roboto, and you can use this Roboto font. And so if you want to download it, so I want you to just click on this download family and then right click on it and install it in your machine, and then you can change it. So in my case, let's suppose if I choose this one, and then you can provide this font family right here. So we have font family and then this value. So I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste it right here. So if I save my file, and now let's just check out, and here you can see this is how it looks like right here. So this is how my coding looks like. If I go to my HTML, I know some people will not agree with me and some people will think like, Hussein, this is supremely bold and you don't want to work with that. But for me it's looking awesome and I really like this font, and I'm going to be using it throughout my projects and stuff. If you like another font, so you can download it from here, or you can buy some font for your projects and Visual Story Coder and all of that kind of good stuff. So I'm going to cut this one, and we have Arabic font, we have a lot of different kind of font families right here. So what do you have to do? Like suppose you choose this one, so then click on this one, like a kind of a glitchy one, and then you can click on this download family. It will download it into your machine, then install it in your machine, and yeah, then you can just provide it right here. So then just change this font family to sans serif, and it will just change it to sans serif. Okay guys, so I don't want to waste more of your time. I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time and learning about Visual Story Coder. And I promise, like if you apply every single thing which I show you in this video, I can guarantee that you are now 10 times better than other developers who didn't watch this course. I can guarantee if you use that Emmits and that shortcut which I show you, you will code like a Sonic. You will be more faster than a Sonic. These things will take a little bit of time. You have to be patient and you have to practice and practice. So if you practice a lot, then you can write a code like Sonic. So once again, thank you so much for your time, and I will see you in the next course. So my name is Hussein, and that was my masterclass. Bye bye.